Hello! It has been quite a while since I've streamed. What day is today? It is Friday. It's Friday, May 10th of 2019. It's been a while since I've streamed because last weekend I was at PyCon in Cleveland, which was pretty awesome. I've been busy with other stuff the rest of this week, and so I haven't had time to stream then, but I've got the itch, so I'm streaming today. Let's see, what all do we have to catch up on? So I guess I'll start with like open source stuff that I've done since then, which actually isn't all that much. A couple of small things that I worked on either offline or during some downtime during PyCon or time after that, or it was a response to just like a bug that was super easy to fix. First one is in a tool that I wrote called YesQA. YesQA is kind of a pun off of NoQA for Flake8. So what YesQA does is it'll automatically remove no QA comments that aren't actually excluding anything. So it basically helps you keep your Python files up to date with the with respect to excluding lint errors. So no QA is a comment which disables a lint error on the line, and what YesQA will do is validate that that lint error is still valid, and if it's not, it'll remove the comment automatically. So I can kind of demo that real quick. So if we install YesQA, so YesQA depends on Flake8, that's how it does its little clever bits. But if I did like import OS with a no QA comment, if I were to run Flake8 on that file, it'll pass. In fact, if I run YesQA on that file, it'll also do nothing. Because this no QA comment is stopping this from being a lint error. But if for some reason I came along and later added some code that used that import, foo, bar, whatever, just any old code that ends up using the OS module, now this no QA comment is no longer correct, and so if I run YesQA on that, it'll rewrite the file, and what it's done there is removed that no QA comment automatically. This is basically so that you can keep your code up to date and like make sure that you're actually linting the lines that you think you are. Also, because I was curious, I decided to run this on a larger project, so I randomly picked adders, sorry Hinnick, and ran YesQA against it. It also supports pre-commit, so I just used pre-commit try repo, which was way easier than setting up a virtual env like I just did. And it found some that were not really doing anything, and so I was able to eliminate these no QA comments automatically, which was pretty cool. But anyway, there was a interesting bug with the way the no QA checker worked. So the basics of the YesQA checker. The basics of how YesQA works is it. Where's the important parts? Yeah. So the first thing it does is it opens up the file and converts it to a bunch of tokens. It then removes all no QA comment tokens, and there was a bug in this comment token removal. Basically what it would do is if the comment was a no QA comment, it would remove the entire comment instead of just removing the no QA portion from it. And so what used to happen, so pip install YesQA less than 0.11, I think was the version I fixed it in. Or 0.0.11. Really embracing my 0 version here. If you had a comment that was like, let's say this comment is really, really, really long. I also have to put a space here because PyCode style has a special case where if your comment doesn't have spaces in it, it will just accept it as being okay. So let's say this is more than 80 characters, and like if I were to run Flake8 on this, it'll complain that that line is too long. And so what I can do is no QA that line, And so if I add no QA comment here, then suddenly Flake8 is okay with that. And what the old version of YesQA would do is it would still remove that no QA comment because it was just wrong, which would cause new lint errors there. And what I did was I fixed that by making it selectively remove the right thing. Upgrade YesQA. We put that no QA comment back. Now YesQA will leave that alone, which was the bug. So that was one thing that I did. It's apparently pretty common on very long Python 2 style type comments, which are useful for telling MyPy, hey, here's the types here. But YesQA was clobbering those. I also found that it was not removing it in some cases where it should have been. Like in this case, it should have removed this comment. But for whatever reason it wasn't. Well, I know what reason, but before I knew the reason, it was a little confusing to me. So I fixed that. The basics were just handle no QA comments as removing just the no QA part and not removing the entire comment. And so the patch was pretty straightforward. In fact, it reduced the number of lines of code by 2, so that's kind of cool. Of course, it went up because I added these 2 tests here to validate that. But that was one thing. Another thing that I worked on was this weird Unicode decode error problem on Windows in pre-commit. I actually don't know how this is possible, so I'm waiting on Bruno to let me know what happened here. So there's a, I mean, the stack trace points at this healthy function, which all healthy does is it tries to import these modules, which it shouldn't print anything. But apparently what was happening was it was printing some stuff, and the stuff it was printing was causing a Unicode error. And the output is completely discarded, so it didn't actually need to be decoding that. So it was a nice one-line fix to make that go away. Just set encoding equals none, which in my command output helper causes it to not turn it into Unicode and just keep it as bytes. And when it's bytes, you don't really care about the encodings. That was a pretty easy fix there. And this last one, this last large change that I made, this one is pretty cheeky and came as a result of a PyCon talk. So there was a talk by Hinnick, who is the maintainer of adders, and one thing that he suggested as part of maintaining a package is to have date stamps in your changelogs. And for the longest time, pre-commit did not have date stamps in the changelog. It just had version numbers and nothing else. Now, you could figure out the date stamps by looking at either like the releases tab, which tells you when it was released. So 1.16.1 was released on the 8th of May. This was released on May 4th, etc., etc. So like you could have kind of figured it out, or looked at the Git history to figure that out. But it was better to just have it directly in the changelog itself. And so I wrote this terrible bash, technically not a one-liner, technically a two-liner, to automatically update my changelog to have date stamps on it. Now this command looks a little complicated, but I'll explain what it does here. So first thing we do is we list all of the tags. So we go to pre-commit, do git tag -l. I'm just going to do head-5 so that we're only looking at a couple of the tags. So we list all of the tags. Then we're going to remove the v from the beginnings. That's what this sed command does. So sed. So that globally removes the leading v. And this is just because this is the format I used in the changelog, not the one with the leading v. Probably could have made that consistent too, but I didn't do that. And then we have an xargs replace here. which is basically going to substitute these two curly braces with each of these versions. So in this case, it's going to run --c sed with extended regexes in place, and we're going to replace the version number with the version number and then a space and then a dash and then a space, and then this command, this get show command, this code's kind of nuts. This get show command will print out the author date of the tag in the short form, which will give us just the date. And so what it's doing here is it's replacing the version number with the version number space dash space and then the date inside changelog.md. But that's not all that has to happen here. The other thing that has to happen here is I had to extend the underlines underneath these. So these are supposed to match however long this text is here. So I had to add more dashes here. So the second cheeky sed finds all of the underlines and copies the original underline but adds this number of equal signs under it, which is exactly the same as space dash space and then a ISO 8601 date. I also had to manually change one of the tags because apparently the changelog listed 0.1, but the original tag was actually 0.0 or 0.1.0. But then I did that, and it worked. It added the date stamps to all the changelogs, which was cool. But yeah, that's basically all the code that I did. I also did one like massive rewrite thing while I was gone, and that was to take mypy.ini and setup.cfg and combine the two. Oh, this one was I clicked on the only one that wasn't my project. So basically what I did is I deleted mypy.ini and added it to setup.cfg. The reason that I did this was it consolidates the number of config files I had, or number of files in the root of my repo. There's no other real reason for this. It just made it slightly simpler, I guess. But yeah, those are the changes I made while I was away. I was super busy at PyCon, so let me do my recap of that. So PyCon was last week, PyCon 2019. In Cleveland, Ohio, and I went for most of the main days, and I stayed for one day of the sprints. I actually screwed up my flight to PyCon, so my goal... Let's see, let me open up a calendar, I guess. Calendar 2019, sure. The pre-commit man. Hey, what's up, Juan? So PyCon was 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th of May. I guess let me zoom in so you guys can see this. So PyCon was 3, 4, and 5 of May. My plan was to fly in and take the red eye on Thursday, so I would have a whole day to meet up with people and hang out and do pre-conference stuff. But apparently, when I scheduled my flight, I had an off by one error in my infinite wisdom, and scheduled my flight for Friday morning. And so, and I only realized this as I was getting on the flight. I was like, wait a minute, isn't PyCon 3 days, not 2? Oh shit, I scheduled the wrong flight. But fortunately I didn't actually miss all that much. I missed part of the opening keynote, and that was all pretty much. And I guess there was like a breakfast and there was a dinner on the Thursday and a breakfast on the Friday that I missed, but whatever, it wasn't a huge deal. I just felt pretty dumb about it. Yeah, let's see. On Friday I got there right after the opening keynote. On the first day I met up with some friends, or I ran into, I didn't really meet up with them, it was just happenstance. I met up with some people that I used to work with at Yelp, who were at PyCon, and I guess only one of them still works at Yelp. The other one is now at Reddit, and still doing Python stuff because Reddit is a Python shop as well. Chatted with them for a while. Missed the first block of talks because we were just talking about stuff. But it was good. It was nice to catch up with them. Hadn't seen them in forever. Then I went to a couple talks. Let's see, PyCon talk schedule 2019. It's all kind of a blur, so it's easier for me to just like look at which talks I went to. Okay, so the first talk that I went to was Mariata's talk, which was called "Don't Be a Robot, Build the Bot." Mariata is a core dev who has been maintaining the CPython workflow. So if we look at like, let's see, Python, CPython. She's been maintaining basically the pull request workflow. So if you look at like some of this stuff, this one's not a great example. I guess let me find a merged one. It'd be better. Even, yeah, one of these ones. So she maintains like the bots and all of the merge workflow, and this like auto merge stuff is all like automated through a bunch of bots. Also, as well as like backporting and test checking, and like all of this stuff happens automatically, and it's basically stuff that didn't exist before, and humans would have to manually backport stuff to previous patches. And so she talked through all of the like workflow changes that have been going on there, and like how she basically realized like we have a like tedium problem, so let's automate it, and talked about that, which was pretty cool. She also mentioned pre-commit during the talk, which I thought was kind of cool. Wasn't exactly in a positive light, but she did mention it. It's something. Too many parallel tracks. Yeah, there were a lot of parallel tracks, and there were some like where I wanted to see it, or I wanted to go to like 2 talks at the same time, and I definitely couldn't. The fortunate thing about PyCon is PyCon 2019 YouTube. The fortunate thing about PyCon is all of the videos are up on YouTube of the talks, or I think most of them. I think there were a few that didn't make it up there yet. Like there was one of the keynotes was not up. Maybe that was intentional. But that keynote was really good, so I kind of wanted to link to it. But yeah, all or most of the talks are up on YouTube, so that was pretty like I didn't feel so bad missing some of them, so that was okay. But yeah, so I went to this talk, which is good. Let's see, did I do the next block? I think I skipped. I forgot what I did this block. I think I went and chatted with some people during this block. I wanted to go to this talk, but I didn't. Oh, no, I went to this talk, yes. This talk was about taking hiring data and doing some like basic statistic analysis to determine whether the hiring process was fair from like a underrepresented groups segmentation kind of deal. Like, are women being treated fairly in the hiring process? Are black engineers being treated fairly in the hiring process, etc., etc.? Veterans, disabled, previously incarcerated people, like the typical groups that can be discriminated during a process. And like, what were the hiring pools diverse enough to even enable someone to be diversely hired? And this was a really well done talk, and Nicole did a great job of explaining all of those things. And in some ways it was kind of a call to action too, because it's like, if your company's not hiring in a diverse way, like here's some actions you can take to like go talk to your HR department and make that happen. What was the controversy of a group trying to make people not go into the talks? Oh, so so depending on like your mentality for conferences, like there's a lot, especially at PyCon. Like PyCon is one of these conferences where honestly, like the talks can be pretty varied in quality, and like you'll often get a lot more out of the conference by going to like unconference open spaces, things like interest groups, or just even just talking with people in the hallway, or going to booths, or like meeting people. And honestly, that's what I spent most of my conference, or most of PyCon this time that I went doing. But there was some like jazz on Twitter about like some people were like very vehement about like don't attend any of the talks, which I think is wrong. Like there were a lot of talks that were really good, and like you didn't go to them, you missed out on them. And actually like seeing them in person is sometimes better than the YouTube recordings, just because you get like the atmosphere of the room. Sometimes you'll whisper to the person next to you about like, oh well, this is cool, and blah blah blah, all of that. And like and when I sat down and hung out with people at talks, it was like, oh hi, I'm Anthony, blah blah blah, like introduce yourself and figure out why each of the people are in the room, why they want to go to that. And so I thought that was good. But yeah, there's definitely like several camps of people where it's like there's the extremists, which are go to none of the talks. I'm more one of the like go to the interesting talks and try and find open spaces that meet your interests and such, and go to those. The first time I went to PyCon, I basically only went to talks, and this time I branched out a lot, and I think it was a much better experience. Like I met a bunch more people, I hung out with people, and like basically met all the people that I hack on open source, but in real life, which is pretty cool. But yeah, going to talks at PyCon, like, some of them are great. I don't want to like discount all of the speakers, because some of the speakers are exceptional. But some of them are like, I'm okay skipping it. Then I went to this talk. This was actually, so Raymond is a really great speaker. And so this talk was actually really hard to get into. I actually like showed up early to the talk so that I could get a seat, and basically they had to keep people out of the room because it was a fire hazard to keep that many people in the room. But this was a talk about using using automated solvers of increasing degrees of complexity to solve problems just by defining the problem space. And so like the first problems that he showed were problems where you define the problem space as like a graph, and like the possible state transitions, and then you have this generic solver that all you do is feed it the state transitions, and it traverses the graph either depth first or breadth first, and finds the possible solutions and the paths to them. And then it bumped up a level and talked about like satisfiability solvers, like SAT solvers, and then it took like one step further and went to things like C3, which is, I forget. I mean, I don't really know this stuff very well, so I don't know. I don't remember what it was called, but it's a type of solver that uses like heuristics and like identifies symmetry in your problems, and kind of reduces NP hard problems to be like still NP but like doable in some amount of time. And then he talked about like other like advanced game playing things, like the robot that beat people at chess and Go and stuff, and like the computing's come a long way in the last, I don't know, 30 so years in solving problems automatically, which was pretty cool. But let's see, then I went to lunch. Did I go to any of this block? I don't think I went to this block, although I wanted to see this talk because this one sounded good. I also wanted to see this one, but I went to this one instead. This was one of those blocks where there were a couple talks that I wanted to see, but I'll go back and watch these on YouTube. I haven't had time because I've been too damn busy. I think I could have given this talk, so I didn't really feel like going to this one. Oh, actually, I remember what I did in this block. I went and talked to Mariana about building bots for GitHub, and her experience, and like she was like, oh, it's nice to meet you in person, which is great. What did you have for lunch? Let's see, the first day, so the lunch was like not actually the greatest at PyCon. The first day I had it was like this tofu and rice with a bunch of like mixed grains and stuff. It was okay. It was not very filling. But yeah, it was fine. Let's see. Holy macaroni. All the shit, and I can't even seem to figure out classes after reading 27 tutorials about it. Seems like fun, though. Well, I mean, you can figure out classes. Classes aren't all that important, either. Aren't all that important. Man, I can't even talk. That was the other thing that was exhausting about PyCon. So, like, after my flight there, I slept, like, 1 hour on the red eye. So I had, like, 1 hour of sleep. And then basically talked for 12 to 18 hours for every single day. Mostly to, like, people and stuff. Mostly to people. And so I was just, like, dead exhausted. And I got back to work on Tuesday, and I was like, I need a vacation, even though I had taken 3 days off to go to PyCon. But yeah, I spent this block talking to Mariana. Also talked to... I can never pronounce his name. What is his name? He's on Twitter. Handle is... yeah. Sviatoslav? I don't know. I could never pronounce his name, and he made fun of me when I tried to pronounce it in person, but he's really awesome. I spent probably most of my PyCon when I was hanging out with him. He's a maintainer of Ansible and works at Red Hat, and basically does a ton of Python stuff. He's really awesome. But spent a bunch of time also talking about GitHub bots with him. Oh, lost my tab. Where was I? So yeah, that block did that. Somewhere in here there was an open space about Flask that I went to instead of the talks, and some of that was selfish. I was trying to get a PR that I did on stream a couple streams ago merged, which it did get merged, which is good. Let's see, palettes, Vexoid. Let's see, author me, merged or closed. Why did these not get merged? Convert samples to use 2+3 syntax. Oh. Oh, because David did them all for me, that's why. Oh, and I closed this because this was my first attempt at fixing this memory leak. But this was the one where I also fixed the memory leak, and we talked about this in person at PyCon, which is good. And it'll get merged into 15.3 or 15 whatever, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, I went to the Flask open space, talked with David, met a bunch of other people that work on Flask and related technologies. We also talked a lot about like internals of how WSGI apps work and like the approaches that Flask and others take and how that works out. That was pretty good. I really wanted to go to these two talks, which was at the same time. I did eventually watch them offline later, and they were really good. So if you want to check out two good talks, I know these two were good. I assume most of these were good. I don't want to like count people out as I like point out talks that interest me. There's a bunch that are also great. Like I heard this one is great too, but again, I haven't had time to look at all of them. I've also heard this one is good too, but again, like I don't know. And if there's people that I don't shout out, like it's not because they're not good. It's just because I didn't go to their talks, and so I can't really speak to them. But Lukash is he's the creator of Black. He talked about Black and how it can like kind of the internals and how you could write your own formatter and why it's good to enforce a code style. And Anthony, not me, different Anthony S. Talked about his tool called Wiley, which is a way to measure code complexity over time. Hey, what's up? How's your day going? But both of these talks were good. I watched them after the fact on YouTube. This was a talk that I was like, I definitely want to go to this one, and I did. And this talk was great. Maintaining a Python project when it's not your job, which in a way, like, describes my life. So Hinnick is the maintainer of adders, and he's a very snarky, sarcastic kind of guy, and he has this great way of like talking through problems and like describing all of that. And he basically went through his basic project setup for like open source stuff. And this talk was equally cool because there was a shout out for pre-commit in it as well. Actually, there was like basically a whole slide portion which was like, oh look, these are all software that either I created or maintained. So that part was pretty cool. But this was a really good talk for like targeted at maintainers and stuff. And like even if you're not an open source maintainer, a lot of the stuff in this talk could apply to just working on projects. And so this is a good one. Definitely recommend this one and recommend Hinnick as a speaker. I met with him after and we talked about open source and stuff, and he was very grateful that I maintained some of the stuff I maintained. So that part was cool. I also kind of wanted to look at this talk, but I again haven't had time for this. This guy works at Yelp, and I've actually seen this talk given before, so I'm familiar with that one. It's at least some part of it is like accessibility tools and how you can apply them to programming. We need a way to make open source more self-sustainable. Yeah, definitely. We need to pay maintainers, basically. Or like make it easy to pay maintainers. Which actually, speaking of which, what is it called? No, Tidelift. I recently joined Tidelift, which is a way for companies to provide subscription-based payment. It's not all that different than Open Collective, but PyTest is actually moving to being funded by Tidelift. Did it get merged? Yeah, it got merged. So like the PyTest project is part of Tidelift, and so organizations can pledge money to basically support the maintainers of PyTest, which is pretty cool. For now, it's just us three, but Ronnie will join when he jumps back into open source, and basically anyone who puts in enough time will also end up in this list. But it seems promising. I don't know how long Tidelift will last because it seems like a rough around the edges startup, but no, it's a good idea, and I hope that we can like make this more of a normal thing in open source. The other thing that makes Tidelift really awesome is like the way a open source software would usually collect money is like you would set up an LLC and you would set up like a procurement platform and all this other stuff, and then you would request from companies that you know are using your stuff, and then they would go through their like accounts payable and all that other bullshit and like make that happen. But the nice thing about Tidelift is it basically sets up a way for companies that it's just like check a box, pay money periodically, and support these projects that we use, and they kind of manage the distribution of the money from that point. And so it's kind of like a cool platform approach to making this happen, and like takes away a lot of the tedium of getting set up for receiving money for open source people. But I don't know, it's kind of a cool project. The problem with projects like Tidelift is that they are helping increase the gap, making the big fish bigger. That's supposed to be the reverse of what's needed. We need something that helps small active minorities. Yeah, that's pretty true. You're right. Yeah, it does like enable big projects to get bigger. But at the same time, like I think we do kind of need to reward big projects. Maybe not big projects, but like more useful projects, and encourage small projects to grow into big projects. Now, granted, it's hard or impossible to get funding for small projects. Like there's no way in hell that I would get funding for like, I don't know, what's one of my small projects, like I don't know, like SQA, which I talked about earlier. There's absolutely no way that I would get funding for this. Wait, why is there an issue? Oh yeah, I know about that issue. Like this thing is dead simple, and like there's like little reason that like companies use this. Like I have insight into seeing that there's traffic from well, we can't see it here, but I've seen other like Jiras and stuff show up here, and there's like thousands of Git clones per week, so like people are definitely using this. But again, like there'd be no way to get funding for that. So you're right. Like I wish they would extend beyond that. They only recognize npm stuff. So Tidelift does at least a bunch. Tidelift does a bunch more than npm. They've extended since then. Where's the like? So I just for lulz I searched pre-commit before. That search box was broken earlier, so I'm glad they fixed it. But like, yeah, they have support for like npm, PyPI, Ruby, Homebrew, Argo, Packages. These two are new to like within the last day or so, because I didn't see these before. But like, they have support for a bunch of other stuff. Hey, what's up, David? How's your Friday going? But yeah, Tidelift seems like kind of a good thing to pay maintainers. I don't know. It could be better. You're definitely right. Like, it should be easier for smaller pools to also gain payment in that way. It's great. What is the stream tackling today? So the first part, well, the first half hour so far has just been me describing my experience at PyCon, and then maybe I'll write some code after that. But I'm not even through day one at PyCon yet, describing. I had just gotten through to this talk. So I'm gonna finish going through that, and then maybe we'll write some code. So yeah, then after this talk was a break. I think during this break, who did I talk to? I went and talked to the PyTest. Well, the PyTest people weren't there, but the test and code people were there. Or Brian was there, I guess, more specifically. But I went and talked to Brian during this slot. He runs basically a podcast or like video cast or something like that, that talks about like testing approaches and stuff. And we basically like chatted about like where's the direction for PyTest, and he's like, do you want to come on the show sometime and talk about PyTest? And I was like, sure, why not? I have infinite free time. Let's do it. He mostly wanted me to end up on the show because my time zone is a lot more compatible with him than the other maintainers, and so that was his suggestion there. Hey, what's up, Cookie Damon? Thank you for the follow. I see you there, Ryan. I went to high school with Cookie Damon. We used to stream and play video games way back when I streamed like once or twice, and I was like, this is too much work and my internet sucks too much. But yeah, thank you for the follow. So your qualifications are geographically convenient. I mean, that's not strictly it. I'm also pretty involved in the development. Like, I'm not top 6 yet, but if you look like my 2018 has been pretty active in contributing to PyTest, and like Benjamin isn't really active anymore. I don't even know this guy not active anymore. Daniel has been exceptionally active in the recent months or so, but Bruno is basically right now. It's basically Bruno, Daniel, and me are doing most of the PyTest development, and the original maintainer hasn't really done much in a while. Ronnie has been on hiatus since like February or so. He kind of got burned out on open source and needed to spend some family time, which is completely understandable. But Ronnie will probably be back in a couple months. So I don't know. I'd say I'm pretty qualified to talk about PyTest. But geographically convenient is definitely a part of it. But yeah, so talk to Brian. It was good to meet him in person and chat about that. So that was good. Did I talk to someone else during that break? Probably not. I think it was just Brian. Then I went to this talk, which was not great. This was one of the talks where I really wish I would have skipped and either gone to a different talk or went to an open space instead. This was like kind of a rehash of like some of the other maintainer talks. Like I thought it was going to be good, but it ended up being like, make sure you have a readme and like make sure your issues have tags and like super basic stuff that, you know. And there was like this concept of invisible contributors, which like seemed kind of bullshit to me. Like some of it was like, make sure that your contributors that don't write Python can write Python, and it was like, I can see like making your project easy to like spin up a development environment. Like I can totally agree with that. But like making your contributing guide explain like how to set up your operating system seems way out of scope for open source. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong there, but that was like kind of the gist of the talk, and I felt like it was not that interesting. Also, I felt like the speaker was not super engaging and not super excited about giving a talk, so it was kind of a little off-putting, and I was a little bit bummed about that. I wish I would have gone to this talk, because I feel like I've seen part of this talk before, or at least someone who gave a talk about it, about building a just-in-time compiler in Python. Oops, didn't mean to click on that. A just-in-time compiler is basically like it takes code and optimizes it at runtime so that it goes faster. Basically how PyPy or how PyPy works, or how most modern JavaScript engines work. But yeah, wish I would have gone to that talk. Kind of bummed about this talk. Then after that I went to this talk because I love Pokemon, so there's no way in hell that I was gonna miss this talk. Although it ended up not really being about Pokemon, but I did understand a lot of like, I understood all the references that the guy mentioned that probably like whooshed over other people's heads. For a while he was talking about like basic battle strategy in Pokemon. But basically what he built was a distributed system that scraped, what is it called? Smogon is the site that organizes it. What is the, Pokemon Showdown. So the basic way that Showdown works, it's gonna make noise. It's probably gonna make noise. Let's just play a random bat. Just give me a username, I don't care. I'm gonna lose this battle because I'm garbage at this game, but the basic way Showdown works. Oh, how do we turn off the music? No, stop. Mute sounds. Okay. But the way Smogon works is like there's this battle log here, and there's a battle here, and he wrote a distributed system which scrapes the battle and like finds how Pokemon like act and stuff, and like how certain, oh, this guy's garbage. Why did I switch in? He's gonna switch out, so let's go for a Dragon Dance. But he basically like analyzed Pokemon battles and did a bunch of like data analysis, but his talk wasn't really about the Pokemon aspect. It was more about like the distributed systems part of the system that he built. Come on, hopefully I outspeed this Kingdra, otherwise this team's like kind of garbage. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna play this battle just because I opened it up anyway. But yeah, he talked about like distributed systems and how he was able to take his system that he basically built for free because he was living out of a truck in a jungle and had like no internet, but he had access to basically internet, and he was unemployed, so he didn't really have money. So he had access to basically free tiers of AWS services. What the fuck is this? I didn't even know Floyd Eternal got released. Oh shit. But he's a fairy type, and I'm using a dragon move, and I'm locked in, so... Bye-bye, Tyrantrum. Yeah, that was predictable. I probably should have not used Outrage. I probably should have used literally anything else. This says Ironhead, though. But, yeah, so, like, he talked about how his original solution was just, like, this Python script that did all of the work serially, and how that didn't really scale all that well, because, like, doing a bunch of serial work was both, like, error-prone and, or I guess it wasn't error-prone. It was reliable, but it didn't scale well. Like, he could do a single battle at a time instead of, like, thousands of battles. What? That did nothing. What is going on? Oh, wait, no, now I used Ironhead. Okay. Like, oh, his damage was from recoil. I see. Still probably gonna lose this battle. Oh, what does Swallow do? I'm a fighting type. I think I'm really weak to Swallow. Do I have to sack something? He's also probably faster than me. 224. Yeah, there's no way. I think I just lose to Swallow because it's good. This might outspeed it. Yeah, we'll just go for Ironhead again. Oh, I survived. Why? Maybe he assumed I was gonna switch. Oh no, it has cuts. Alright, well this is dying. But yeah, his talk was really good. He was a really good speaker. He works at Google now, so he's no longer unemployed. But it was kind of funny because the beginning of the talk, the beginning of the talk, he was having a bunch of problems with like Google Slides and stuff, and I have all slow guys. I think I just get swept here, which sucks. But what are you gonna do? Oh, okay, I lived. Alright, I don't get swept by the Swallow, but I had to sack 2 Mons to deal with that. Oh, do I have to send out? I think he already saw Parasect, so I'll send out Parasect. Oh, but he's gonna just send out Togekiss. Okay. This is not well thought out. Do I outspeed? No, there's no way I outspeed. He's just gonna Air Slash, and then I'm dead. Dang it. Well. What? Okay, he went for T-Wave instead. I guess he assumed I was gonna switch, because I switched last time. Oh no, this is Mega Kangaskhan. I'm dead. And there's Sleep Claws. Shit. Yeah, that's GG. Maybe if I get Leech Seed enough? Yeah, there's no way that works. Mega Kangaskhan is so broken in this game. Anyway, I'm just gonna play this one battle and then I'll go back to talking about stuff. I'm pretty sure I lose here. Although he didn't kill me with return, so there's a chance. I don't know why he's taking so long. Come on, guy. I have PyCon to talk about. But yeah, I guess I'll just put this off screen. I'll play off screen, whatever. So then I didn't go to the lightning talks. I spent time talking with other people instead. So that was, I mean, I didn't do any of this stuff here. Oh, I did go to Art of Python. So I went to dinner with the maintainer of Flask and a bunch of other people that I met, which was pretty good. It was a fun dinner. We chatted about stuff, talked about Flask some more, and we started a dumb meme, which, let's see, David is his Twitter handle, not here, earlier than that. This is not the dinner that I went to. Where's the one that I went to? I know we took photos. What did this guy use? I'll use toxic. Yet. Wait, I have return, but I don't have max happiness? What kind of garbage set is this? Oh. Okay. There's the meme. That was after that. Oh, is this one? Maybe it's on my Twitter? I don't know how Twitter works. But, oh, here we go. So he coined the term Flask Lord because his name is David Lord, and he works on Flask, or he like maintains Flask, and so like the rest of the conference, people referred to him as Flask Lord, which was just pretty funny. But anyway, that was the meme that we got out of that. Then we went to the Art of Python, which was pretty cool. It was basically like a bunch of people that had done art projects with Python, and like some of it were like little not really talks, but like plays where people like acted out like interview scenarios and a bunch of other stuff like that. I think I lose. Here's the rest of this battle. I'm almost done. I got it down to just as Mega Kangaskhan. Oh, I win! I guess Mega Kangaskhan is slow. Okay, anyway. That's enough Pokemon. But yeah, so we went to Art of Python, which was pretty cool. We ate cupcakes in the back of the room because we had bought cupcakes on our way over there. They were delicious. There's this like artisanal cupcake shop in Cleveland. No pre-commit swag. Yeah, I should have made stickers of the logo before, because it's like actually a pretty good stickerable logo. I actually don't have an SVG of it, so I need to like talk to the designer that put this together and like see if she still has the assets. But this would have been a good sticker, but alas, like didn't make one, didn't have any. So yeah, no pre-commit swag. Maybe next PyCon. Something cool in the lightning talks. So I didn't go to this section of lightning talks, but there were some pretty cool ones at the other ones. I don't really remember any of them, unfortunately. They're all up on YouTube though, which is good. Yes, and so then the next day, went to breakfast. Oh, this is like one of my favorite stories about PyCon. Went to breakfast, and my goal at all of the meals was to sit down at random tables and just like meet new people and talk to people and like kind of like ask them what kind of tools they're using, what they're interested about, and that sort of thing. So I sat down at a table at breakfast, and this girl was sitting next to me, and I don't remember how we got onto the subject, but she started talking about like what tools that she's using at work. And one of the things she starts explaining is she's like, yeah, we have this like really awesome thing that when you run git commands, it like installs linters for you, and like you don't have to worry about them, and it like auto fixes your code and like does all this cool stuff. And like I don't really remember what it's called, but I know it's a Python project, and like my mentor is like super gung-ho about it, and like it's really cool. It saves me a whole bunch of time. And I was just like snickering to myself like, is it maybe called pre-commit? And she's like, pre-commit, yeah, that's what it's called. And I was like, yeah, I wrote that. That's my project. And she's like, no way. She was just like completely floored. It's just like one of those weird flex moments, but I thought it was pretty funny. It was one of my favorite moments of PyCon. I did have a moment that I liked even more, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, then that was breakfast. We were late to the lightning talks because we were talking about some other stuff and meeting some other people that were like interested in how the internals of Flake 8 works. I was explaining like how you would write a code linter and how you would like search for different patterns and use AST parsers and that sort of thing. Not super interesting, but talked about that. These two keynotes were probably the best part of the conference, or like one of the best parts of the conference for me from a talk perspective. Unfortunately, I don't think they're on YouTube. But the basis of the talk is Shadid, sorry, was a previously incarcerated person. So when he was a kid, he didn't really grow up in a great home and was arrested for felony assault with a weapon, or felon robbery. I don't remember. He shot a guy basically, and was sentenced for 29 years to life. And basically talked about his progression through the prison system and like how he went from a maximum security prison to a medium security prison, and basically worked on learning stuff as much as possible and staying out of like violence in the prison system, and like basically built his way up to be a like educated individual while in prison, and learned a bunch of stuff. Fortunately, he was transferred to like basically the nicest prison in the US in California. I forget what it's called, but there's like one prison that has, I don't know, like 200 different programs where you can learn stuff or do self-improvement or like, you know, educate yourself while you're in jail. And he talked about like the difficulty of leaving jail and like having essentially a new life while the system doesn't really prepare you for that. Like he was talking about when you get out of jail, they give you $200 and a bus ticket, and like you're somehow supposed to like jumpstart your life after being in jail with that. And like it's not really like, the US prison system is super fucking broken, and it's not really designed to rehab you to not get out again. Like people, like the thing he talked about was like most of the people that he saw leave came back within a couple of weeks. Like it's just a system built for relapse. But he talked about how tech is kind of a unique situation for re-entering a workplace, because tech, unlike a lot of other work, tech is pretty much like if you can do the job, you'll be hired. And tech also values diversity in a way that other industries really don't. And maybe that's not strictly true, but there are companies that value diversity a lot more than other stuff. And he basically talked about his journey and how he's like full-time like essentially went from a life sentence to full-time employed at a tech company, and like regularly speaks at conferences like this. And it was incredibly moving. It was like I can't even put into words like how good this talk was. And then Jessica McKellar followed up, and she is a person who spends a lot of time at prisons, like speaking with individuals like this, and like trying to make a difference in the prison system, and like trying to fix this fucking nightmare that the US has created. Like it was an exceptional back-to-back, and like very, very moving. But yeah, that was pretty great. Then I didn't go to any of these talks here. I spent time at the Maintainer Summit, which was basically like a conference in a conference. The way it worked out is it was basically lightning talks from other open source maintainers and small group discussion, and it was really awesome. It also was probably like the biggest bus factor room at PyCon because like one of the tables that I sat at, it was me, not that I'm super important or whatever, but it was me. To the left of me was a maintainer of pip. To the right of me was a maintainer of pip. Across from me was the maintainer of Ansible, who I talked about earlier. The maintainer of Hypothesis was at the table. Oh, who else? Someone else who maintains a big... Oh, one of the Twisted maintainers was also there. And then the table behind me was the creator of Black, the maintainer of Adders, and all of the Facebook Python people. And so it's just like those two tables weren't even the most like I don't want to say star-studded, but like open source important people. And there were a bunch of like really cool talks about like avoiding burnout and not avoiding burnout and like all sorts of stuff around there. So those were pretty cool. Of these talks, I wanted to go to this one just because the title is hilarious. Oh, my music paused. Oh, yeah. Continue playing. This one seemed interesting, but also like I've seen a million deployment talks, so I wasn't really sure that it was going to be anything groundbreaking. I feel like I could sum up this talk in like 5 minutes, so I didn't actually see it, but pretty sure I know what they would talk about and like how it's like best practices around libraries and dependencies. But I didn't go to this talk, but it's probably good, or at least I hope it has the same message that I would give at the same talk. This one, I don't know why it's. I mean, this one probably is good. I also probably could have given that talk as well. Basically talking about like how wheels are binary distributions and how you can have pure Python wheels and platform compatibility and all sorts of stuff around there and like what the file names mean. I've definitely like, I think at Yelp, or no, maybe at Lyft I wrote up a paper about wheels. Let me see if I can find that real quick. I think none of it is secret, so maybe I can share it. I'm looking at Google Drive on my other monitor, which is why I'm just like staring off into the distance. Last modified, so it would have been real old. It's not there. My team drive, maybe? They also just reorganized our... oh, that's not the one I want. They reorganized our... documentation recently, so I don't know where this design doc ended up. This one? Yes? No. No. This one. Maybe? Or maybe I wrote this document at Yelp and I'm just completely misremembering. Huh. Never mind. Neither of these are the doc I was thinking of. But anyways, I wrote up a huge document about how wheels work and like how you can trick them. And I've even written a tool which allows you to customize the platform name. The idea being like if you have multiple operating systems, you can deploy wheels that have custom platform names to your PyPI and then upgrade at whatever cadence you want to. Because the typical platform name is Linux x86-64 for all Linux machines, and all Linux machines are not created equal. They have different libraries installed and like different sets of packages, and usually if you're doing like dynamic linking, you need to be consistent with which packages you're installing to. And so we built this thing called pip custom platform, which is a glorious hack that works exceptionally well, which probably sums up most of the code that I write, let's be real. But this was like a project that I built for Yelp and was incredibly useful for getting Yelp off of Ubuntu Lucid and like being able to upgrade at whatever cadence they wanted to. So this was a pretty cool tool. But anyway, I could talk for hours about wheels. I wanted to see this talk, but instead I'm pretty sure... So I know I skipped the Maintainers Summit discussion. Who did I sit with? I went and sat with somebody and talked for a while. I don't remember who. I think it was Julian, who's the... who maintains a bunch of stuff, including JSON schema, which is the big one. I spent a bunch of time talking with Julian, who unfortunately is like super burned out on open source. But we sat and talked about like his environment setup and like improved a bunch of like nitpicky stuff that he had problems with, like warnings being shown and like some bugs in PyPy, and we spent a bunch of time debugging that. Who else did I? Oh, I also went and talked to, maybe that was during this break. I also went and talked to Anthony Shaw, who I talked about earlier, who wrote Wiley, which is a code formatting tool, or not code formatting tool, a code complexity tool. Chatted with him a bit. He was nice to meet in person because we've talked a lot on Twitter and GitHub and stuff. But yeah, I wanted to go to this talk, but I didn't. And then I had lunch. Day 2 lunch was not much better than day 1 lunch. I don't even remember what it was. I wanted to go to this talk and this talk, mostly because I don't really like the Walrus operator, but I wanted to see someone like actually speak about it. So I have to go back and watch this one. Also, Dustin is a good speaker, so wanna see his talk. But I went back to see more Lightning talks at the Maintainer Summit. And then the rest of this day, I spent debugging shit with Julian and some of the Twisted people. Which it turns out they're apparently using pre-commit at work. Not in the Twisted project, but the maintainers are using it for their work stuff, which I thought was cool. We talked about like some of the design principles and like why pre-commit uses Git and like how you can avoid slow clones and how pre-commit already does that, and they just need to upgrade and get the newest version. But I also spent a bunch of time at PyCon with Gabber, or with Burnett. Wait, have I been mixing up his first and last name the whole time? Maybe, but I spent a bunch of time with Burnett. He's the other maintainer of talks, and we hung out for probably more time than anyone else. Although, I think I already said that, so maybe the second most amount of time. But anyway, I went back and rewatched this talk. If you haven't worked with MyPy before, this is a good one for jumping in and learning about MyPy. Unfortunately, he has a heavy accent, so sometimes he's hard to understand. But I don't know. I spent many hours with him, so I understood what he was talking about. And his slides are really good. So I would recommend this talk. This one sounded good too, but I didn't get a chance to watch that one. This one is interesting. Like I know what this one is doing behind the scenes, so this one's interesting. Where did I go? Yeah, here. But I didn't get to. I haven't had time to watch any of these talks. is the theme of this. But I was debugging stuff with PyPy and Homebrew and Virtualenv and the guts of that stuff during most of this time, so I didn't get to look at those. I did go to this talk, which was the next one that I got to, which was kind of not that groundbreaking. It was talking about like how mathematically machine learning models can be unfair, and so that was kind of interesting. I did want to look at this talk, and I wanted to look at this talk because this is basically my jam: syntax trees and automatic code transformation. This is basically what I do on stream all the time. In fact, somebody once described my stream as just AST stuff, which wasn't all that inaccurate, but I like to think that I do a little bit more than that. But I didn't get to see that talk. Then I watched the lightning talks, which were good, and then I went to dinner. I missed the charity auction. Apparently the charity auction was just super poppin' this year. Apparently there's like a Guido painting. PyLadies auction. Does this work? Can I search Twitter this way? It's just, there's no photos. Where's the photos? anyway, there was a like painting of Guido which got sold off at the auction, which was like kind of, it was a little weird, but I don't know, it was kind of cool. Yes, and then Sunday started with breakfast, which, oh wait, before that, there was the PyCon 5K fun run, which let me grab my, I linked it on Facebook, I think. I might have also linked it on Twitter, but ran a 5K, which was part of the like PyCon dealio. And I got my personal best time in a 5K, which was pretty cool. But this was the 5K. Started here, looped up around here. There's a big ass hill right here, which sucked. And then like looped around and came back. But my time was 22:39 according to the official timer, which is my best 5K that I've ever done. My previous like practice 5K was like 24 minutes, but this was like a 7 minute 10-second pace for my or 7:10, 7:11, somewhere around there. But this was my best 5K. This is the hill here, which like 9% grade, which is pretty intense. But where's the like pacing? Oh, not logged in there. Log in over here. Log in. Apparently it doesn't show you the like pacing information unless you're logged into Strava. Oh, and how the link is going. Dang it. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So so I PR'd my 5K, I PR'd my 2 mile, I PR'd my 1 mile, and my 1K, which like it's pretty good. Yeah, but my first mile was like almost a sub 7 pace. But you can see here, like, what is this? What is this blue thing? Is that pace? Yeah, that's pace. So you can see like the hill here, like destroyed my pace. But like, for the most part, I maintained a pretty steady pace. I sprinted at the end, which is what this little spike is here, but I guess I got off to a fast start and like slowly degraded, but then also this first part was really rough because the grass is super slippery. Also, it was fucking cold. It was so cold. But it was a good race. That part was fun. Are these runs sneaky ways to try and get metric into the US? Yeah, I wish. Standard measurements are just such a bad idea. Miles are so arbitrary. But I kept a pretty good pace through most of it. This is the downhill portion where apparently I was running a 5:13 pace, which actually isn't that unreasonable. My fastest mile that I ever ran, it wasn't, I mean, this was before smartphones and all that shit, so I was just like manually timing with like a stopwatch. But my fastest mile ever was a 5:24. So like this pace actually isn't that unreasonable. But I was in super good shape then. Now I'm just kind of not. I'm in really good biking shape, but biking shape doesn't translate that well to running. And in fact, a lot of ways it makes you slower because it, like, I have tree trunk thighs, which isn't great for running, but it's really great for biking. But anyway, ran a 5K, got up at 5 in the morning, hopped on a bus, went to a park, ran the 5K, and then came back, missed breakfast because the time we were like late to start the 5K, and like it was kind of a mess. Also went back to my hotel, took a shower, whatever. Oh, actually no, I did get breakfast. That's what it was. I got breakfast and then I missed the lightning talks because I was eating instead of going to the lightning talks. But it was fine. I was sitting with some other people that I knew from open source, so that was good. Then we had a keynote from the steering console, which was basically like a Q&A about the new governance model of Python. It wasn't particularly interesting. it was good to like meet the people that are part of the steering council and like see like how long they've been involved in Python, what sort of stuff they're interested in, and that sort of deal. Then they had the poster session and job fair from 10 till 1. I did not go to any of the job fair or poster session, mostly because I'm pretty happy with my current job, so I don't really see a reason to switch jobs. There were some posters that were interesting, but I felt that my time was better spent at open spaces. So I went to a bunch of open spaces. What was the first one I went to? I forget. It was, I think Flask was the first day's open space, so it wasn't that one. I went to one about Vim, but I don't really use Vim, but it was interesting for me to go there and like see how other people use it and like their rationale and their like almost, I don't want to say like elitist, but it's like a mentality where like if you're not using Vim, like what the fuck is wrong with you, sort of deal. But were real funny. And I didn't realize I used Nano, so I got away with not leaking that information. But it is elitist. We are way better than everyone else. That's fair. All right, fine. I'll accept that the Vim people are better than everyone else. But yeah, I don't use Vim myself, but I'm actually teaching my brother to program, and I'm forcing him to learn Vim so that he's not in noob land. Hey, what's up, B Taskaya? How's your Friday going? But yeah, we ran my favorite open space was one that Matt Blayman, Matt B Layman, who's another Twitch streamer. So I'd suggest checking him out. He streams on Wednesdays and works on Django and is building a website. But he and I organized, well, it was mostly him, organized an open space for Twitch and YouTube streamers, which when we set it up, we're like, I bet like 6 people are going to show up, and it's just going to be us like shooting the shit in the corner, and like it'll be whatever. And so we set up an open space where we talked about like streaming strategies, and like 30 or 40 people showed up, and it was really cool. Like we spent a bunch of time talking about like strategies that we have for like building a community, and like what sort of stuff we work on, like how we talk to streams, like how we get over the weirdness that I'm sitting in my bedroom by myself talking to myself kind of, but also like talking to you guys in chat, and like getting over the nerves of like, oh, I'm gonna fuck up on stream, and like people are gonna call me on my typos and like all this chunk. And it's like we talked a lot about like getting over fears and how like literally everyone in software makes mistakes. Like all software is broken. But like he ended up collecting all the notes on this and like setups and like tools that people use, and basically like the basics of getting started with streaming and stuff, and like put together a good like gist about that. But you're still weird anyways. Yeah, it's super weird. But yeah, it was like a cool open space, and like met a bunch of other streamers that do Python or do different video game programming or whatever on stream, which was pretty cool. It is my first time in your stream. I developed Python 2 and saw you randomly. Well, welcome to the stream. Thanks for stopping by. Today's a little bit of a non-standard stream because I'm basically recapping a bunch of stuff that I did over the last couple of weeks, and then hopefully eventually I'll get into writing some code. But until then, you'll just have to strap in and sit through this. But yeah, that was pretty cool. So I spent a bunch of time in open spaces here. I went to a talk. I went to the Hypothesis talk, which I was familiar with Hypothesis, but not really the intricacies of how it works. And this was a really good like description of how Hypothesis works. The basics behind Hypothesis is actually kind of similar to Raymond's talk about like defining a system and setting the rules for the system, and then letting a solver or like an automated tool essentially, like, in this case, build a bunch of test cases and validate your code for you. But in the case of, like, Raymond's talk, it was about, like, solving problems. But this was a lot about, like, defining your input space and, like, assertions that you expect about the output space, and then having it auto-generate tests or auto-generating failing cases for your code. And so Hypothesis is a pretty cool piece of software. I don't actually use it myself, but it seems like a cool thing to, like, fuzz test stuff. I couldn't attend PyCon this year, but I think I watched over 20 plus sessions from Monday to today. You've actually watched more talks than I have, so more power to you. There's been a lot of really, really good talks that I know about. Oh, I also went back and watched this talk. This talk was really good. Python on Windows is okay, actually. Steve works at Microsoft, but don't let that detract from his talk. His talk is actually really good about how there's a significant number of people in the Python community, like more than any other operating system, he posits. I'm not sure about his statistics, but it's believable. Like, I can believe that there's more Windows Python users than there are any others. But he talked about, like, how you can take some small steps to make your application work better on Windows, and like basically like test that stuff because it's important. But let's see, were any of these other ones one I was interested in? Not really. This one maybe, just so I could get another idea about the new governance model, but I kind of got that from this steering console keynote. I don't really care about data science. This one I know stuff about PyTest async. Maybe it would have been interesting to see someone else's take on that. Lowering the stakes of failure with pre-mortems and post-mortems. I think I know enough about post-mortems. Although maybe that would have been a fun one to go to. This one could have been interesting. Oh no, time zones. Paul is good. I like his talks. My GitHub activity looks awesome. Yeah, I spend a lot of time on GitHub. So much that sometimes it doesn't even load for me. Oh, this time it loaded. I've been slacking a bit recently. It was at 10,000 before, although like half of that is private contributions, but I don't show private contributions because I feel like it's kind of cheating towards the GitHub counters. I also don't pin repositories on GitHub because I feel like that is cheating as well. But if I did pin stuff, there's 4 large projects that I work on. So one of them is Precommit, which is a Git hooks and linter runner framework, which I'm probably going to hack on later if I have some time on stream. I also work on PyTest. It's a Python testing framework. We just passed 4,000 stars. Wow. Good job us. I also work on Talks, which is an automation virtual environment testing tool. I also work on Flake 8. That's PyFlakes. Those are probably the 4 biggest projects that I maintain or have created. But anyway, that's some of the GitHub stuff that I use. I use Precommit hooks for Black and PyTest and Talks for testing. Nice. I do too. Well, I don't use Black, but I guess I use it at work and for PyTest and for Talks, but I don't use it in my projects. But yeah, it's a pretty cool ecosystem. I'm pretty happy with a lot of the stuff that I've built out of it. Juan says he's got to go. Have an awesome stream. Thanks for stopping by, Juan. It was good to have you. Good to chat. But yeah, I spent a lot of time on GitHub. But yeah, a couple of these that I would have liked to go to. Then we had this, which was more announcements about like people that were recognized in the last year for their contributions to Python and to the community, which was cool to see. Like some of the people that were recognized. I forget all of them, but Mariata was recognized. A couple other big people were recognized. And then this keynote was really cool. Nina talked about, so one of the things that we got in our like swag bags for PyCon were these starter things. Let me grab mine. Let's see, I guess I can make this bigger. I'll show you a small live demo of this. Oh, I resized it. So it's about that big now. Will make me bigger. But it's a microcontroller board, and it actually runs Python. It runs a flavor of Python called MicroPython. Let's see. And Nina actually did all of it as a live demo, which is super brave. Like I'm about to do now. Oh, those are bright. So let me show you some of the code that's on here. If I remember how to do this. Yes, CircuitPy. So if I attach, I think I attached this device. Find out. Does that work? Media. I think so. Yeah. So this is some code that I wrote for the CircuitPy. And so basically the way that it works is it boots into a small like shim operating system thing. Oh, you guys can't see that code at all. I put it on the wrong tab. Let me move that over so you guys can see it. Oh no. Oh no. I'm gonna crash my terminal emulator. Move the windows. Super ghetto. Okay, you can see the code now. Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't realize that I made my face so big. I'll move it back after I show you the little bit of code that I wrote. So the code, the way it works is it boots into a small like shim-like operating system, which then calls MicroPython, or in this case it's CircuitPython, which is a fork of MicroPython. I can't. I'll go back to the browser and explain that stuff later. But the basic way it works is it runs your code, and you're supposed to basically write an infinite loop that checks the state of the various onboard features. So there's a bunch of things on the board, like there's 2 buttons, there's a switch, there's a microphone, there's a speaker, there's a bunch of contact points. But I wrote this small program just to like try it out, and the way this works is also there's 10 LEDs, which is what this loop is for. So what this code does is I first check whether one of the buttons is pressed, and I figure out whether I'm going to go forward or backward. Then there's 2 colors that I'm choosing from, and I basically take time and multiply and mod and figure out whether it's less than 3. This is to just basically select some subset of the pixels that I want to set as a specific color, and then it just loops forever. And what this code does is, I don't know if you can see it, but some of the LEDs are green and some of them are blue, and they're going kind of in a circle. And which one is button A? Is it this one? Yeah. So if I press button A, it actually, well, you can't really see that at all, but it reverses the rotation of the LEDs. But anyway, it was like kind of a cool little thing to just play around with. And there's apparently ways to put like sound on it and like do all sorts of other stuff. But that was one of the cool parts of the I mean, the keynote is really awesome because Nina is basically she's basically like, fuck it, we're doing it live, and like basically like grabbed her CircuitPy and like had this whole like dot cam setup, which was super glitchy the whole time, but she fought through it. And kind of demoed like how you would write code targeting this thing. So that was pretty cool. And this is kind of a fun little device to play around with, and I think it's especially useful for like beginners because you can basically like pick up something, write some code, and then like visually see the output of it. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, I would recommend watching her talk if you get the chance. And then there was closing of the conference, and that was that. I think I spent some more time at an open space directly after this closing. Or did I go to dinner? I forget. I think I went to first dinner. Yeah, on Sunday I think I went to dinner like 2 or 3 times, which was great. I think I had tacos twice and then something else. I forget, but Sunday I basically had dinner with a bunch of different people to like try and meet as many maintainers as possible. And then we went to a bar, and and then another bar, and like 6 bars later, and then it was like 2 in the morning. I went to bed. And then the day after the talks, there's sprints, where basically people organize into different rooms and they just hack on different projects. And I started at what was the first sprint I went to? I went to the packaging room, and there were like 200 people there, and I was like, I'm interested in Pip and where it goes, but holy shit, not enough to try and deal with 200 people in a room. So I ducked out of that room. They were talking about like governance and that sort of thing. I just wasn't super interested in that. So then I went to the Flask room. Also, I only had a half day for the first sprint day because my flight was in the middle of the day. And so I was basically like, what can I do for a couple hours and get something done? And then peace out. And I was talking with David, and he's like, we have a lot of easy tasks, but not a lot of hard tasks. But there's some hard tasks if you want to grab them. And I was like, well, I mean, maybe I can complete something in 2 hours or like hour and a half. But I actually spent a bunch of time like helping. Oh wait, I forgot about something. My favorite part of the conference, or my favorite like thing that happened at the conference. Let me grab this from Twitter because like the tweet that the person wrote was better than I could have put it. So during the open space, the streamers and YouTubers open space, this guy came up to me afterwards and was like, hey, did you used to work at Michigan? Or did you used to go to Michigan? I was like, yeah, I went to Michigan, got CS degree there, and he's like, you were my TA in 2013? 2013? And I'm really glad that you, like, did that for me because it showed me, like, how programming can be magical, and I basically, like, pivoted my career on that, and now I'm working in, like, I think he works in data science? I don't remember exactly. But it was basically, like, he was, like, thanking me for getting him into programming, and how it's, like, a crazy small world that he would run into me 6 years later at PyCon, like talking about streaming and like in a random open space. And like this was like probably one of the ways, like PyCon is magic. Yeah, like that's basically how I would put it. It was a really cool experience to like meet somebody that I had like butterfly effect affected in the past, and like got them interested in programming. And I don't know. It was a really cool situation there. But I did hack on Vexoig as during the sprints. My PR hasn't gotten merged yet, but I was trying to fix the debugger. I think I can actually demo this real quick. This is the minimal application. Yeah, so let me show you the bug that I was trying to fix. Pip install Vexoig. So I'm just basically making a very, very simple web app that always raises an exception. And we'll run that. I open up this URL. So there's this like nice web debugger in Vexoig, which allows you to click in through a terminal. You grab this pin here. That's for security reasons, because otherwise people could just like run arbitrary code on your debugger. This is on localhost, so it's not exposed to the internet, so I'm okay showing this pin on stream. But the bug was like, let's say I import OS, and I make a lambda that returns OS. I should be able to call this lambda and get back the OS model, for instance. Let me press enter. But it doesn't work. You get a name error due to the way that closure scoping works or something. But if in the normal debugger, you would be able to write basically the same thing and it should work. So you could like import OS. Yeah, like it should return the OS module. But doesn't for whatever reason. And so this is what I was trying to fix, and I ended up having to debug the debugger, which that was it was rough. Like debugging a debugger is not easy, but I ended up fixing it by looking. So this interactive console extends from a class that's in the standard library, and the standard library at this line essentially does this call here. But this special debugger was doing this call here instead, for whatever reason. So I tried to make this call look like this call, and then I had to fix all the other associated stuff with this. And so some of that was like, stick everything into locals instead of being in globals. I had to change how the module name and loader lookup worked. And the hardest part was writing a test, because there were no tests for this at all. So I wrote a test that essentially like builds a debugger and has like a similar bug as this. So I did, instead of doing that one, I did y equals 5, x equals lambda y, and then x paren, which also crashed, but my test made it work. So. But yeah, this is what I accomplished during my crunch time during the Flask open space. It was basically like, I set myself an alarm and was like, okay, I have to leave in 35 minutes, and I have an idea how to fix this, but I don't know how. Let's see how much I can build in 35 minutes. And my alarm went off, and I was like, no, I need 5 more minutes to finish this. And fortunately, I had plenty of time to make my flight, so it wasn't a big deal that I was like bumping up against my initial time, because I was like factoring a bunch of like wiggle room into TSA and all that garbage. But I left I left PyCon later than I planned to, but I ended up making my flight, so it wasn't a big deal. But I did eventually finish this, and that mostly concludes my PyCon experience. Oh, also, as I was walking out, someone came up to me and was like, I didn't know who they were. So sorry if you're watching. Like, didn't know who they were. But they walked up and were like, I'm very grateful for all of the software that you write for Python, and basically like shook my hand and walked away. And that was like pretty weird for me, but at the same time, it was kind of cool to, I don't know, be in, or like be able to be in that position. So felt good about that. But that concludes my PyCon. What else? So there's a couple other like small things that I want to recap. So yesterday was Bike to Work Day in San Francisco. Sorry, complete switch of plans. So yesterday was Bike to Work Day in oh wait, I don't really want to share the URL of this. How can I do this without sharing the URL? Because I don't want you to see where my house is. Because this definitely shows where my house is. Okay, I think I can do this. But I took Bike to Work Day quite literally. So I live in San Mateo, somewhere around here. And I work at Lyft in San Francisco. And so I biked the whole 21 miles to work. Over about an hour and a half of time. Hey, what's up, What a Weasel? Good morning to you. It's evening for me, but I assume you're in Europe or further, where it's morning. But yeah, I took Bike to Work Day quite literally, and biked basically 22 miles. And this was yesterday, now that I think about it. I also biked another like 10 miles after that, and went climbing. So yesterday was like a crazy workout day for me. But so that's another thing that happened while 4 a.m. in Germany. Nice. Be around for coffee soon. Cool. But yeah, so Bike to Work. That was a little bit crazy. But what else? Oh, I got a donation, which was the first donation I've ever received while I was offline. And I know this person watches the stream on YouTube, so they won't be around to see this, but I'm going to replay their notification just so they can get recognized for their contribution. Did that work? Button? No? Come on, Streamlabs. You have one job. Oh, there we go. Okay. So, donated $10 and had this note to the kindest Pylint hater. So I don't hate Pylint. I just don't use it. But last stream we were debugging something with Pylint, and I was trying to like show something, and Pylint kept bugging me about adding doc strings to my module or something like that. And I had put like "fuck off Pylint" as my doc string, so I assume that's where that came from. But thank you for the donation. It definitely helps motivate streaming. So thank you for that. I'm not going to ask explicitly ask for donations though, because I feel like that's kind of insincere or whatever. And like, you know, I have a day job, so I don't stream to make money. I stream because I don't know, I like talking with chat, and I like having a motivation to work on stuff. And so streaming is never going to be about the currency for me. But anyway, I think that finally wraps up the recap portion of the stream. So we're 2 hours in, so I'm finally going to start writing some code now. And I had one problem in mind, so I'm going to kind of like walk through how I ran into this and then demonstrate it and hopefully fix it. So it's a bug in pre-commit that I found at work today. It only seems to affect Python 3, and I have like kind of a crappy solution that I'm not sure is right, but I'm going to try and like debug that, see if it works on Windows, see if I can break it in any way, and basically try and improve this situation. So first I'm going to show how this is supposed to work. Let's see. So let's say I make a change to a file. I don't know. I'm just going to add white space because it's easy. And I've staged this change for commit. When I run git commit, it runs pre-commit as a side effect. So this is basically what it would have done if I committed. It'll check the files that are relevant to just the things that are staged. And if there's unstaged changes, so let's say that I added more white space here. If there's unstaged changes, what pre-commit will do is it will temporarily stash those to a patch file, and then run the hooks against only the staged changes, and then eventually restore that patch file when it's working correctly. But as you're about to see, there's a way that this didn't work correctly, and it took me quite a while to figure out why that was the case and how I can hopefully fix it. I have like a patch that fixed it while I was like just fiddling with this for a couple minutes, but hopefully we'll see if that works or not. But what I was seeing was if I did git commit and then control seed in the middle of it, it didn't actually end up restoring the patch like I saw here. So if I get status now, it blew away my unstaged changes. I guess it didn't show those up there. But we can apply this patch and then show that, and then show it removing them. Git apply this. So I have like this unstaged white space change, and I have this staged white space change. And when I git status, if I git commit and then control C that, shit, I wasn't fast enough. Let me make it run one of the slower ones. So hopefully it can if I control C this, you can see that that patch never got... Oops. Oh, no. I broke my VM. No. Dang it. I think I crashed my virtual machine. My overzealous excited clicking. Oh, it's back. Oh, I just crashed the window manager. It's all good. The window is slightly too tall, but I think that's fine. Where does the mouse show up? It's technically on screen now, but whatever. I just won't put anything down there. But yeah, so it should be reapplying these patches, but it's not. And looking at the stack trace here, this is actually coming from the hook script itself. And so this keyword interrupt is not even waiting for processes to die. One interesting thing that I saw though is if I use Python 2, so the shebang for this file is just user bin env Python. In some situations, it'll end up with Python 3 if there's no Python installed. But if I run this with Python 2, so like if I do which Python version, and then the same procedure that I just did, so if I git commit and then Control C, there's a lot longer stack trace, and this is actually the stack trace from pre-commit itself, and you'll see it actually restored the changes here. So there's some difference between Python 2 and Python 3 here that I'm not super familiar with, and I didn't really do any research into why it changed. Which I probably should look into why it changed, but I think I'm gonna just pretend that it changed for a good reason and there's no way to make the Python 2 behavior happen. But I don't know. I'm gonna try and fix it in that way and go from there. It is sad that GNOME shell is one process. Something goes wrong, the whole shell goes down. Yeah, that's pretty true, and I actually run a forked version of my shell. GNOME terminal broken. So in GNOME terminal that ships with Xeni, or in Bionic, they've turned off tab tearing, which is basically the way where you can take a tab and grab it over here and it'll create a new window. They disabled that because it causes a crash, but I like the behavior so much that I'm okay just like dealing with the crash. And so I run a fork that re-enables tab tearing by patching it out. Essentially, this is a shell script which downloads the upstream package, applies my patch to it, and then rebuilds my own custom version of it. So you can see, like, I have these patched terminal things installed to re-enable tab tearing. But a fun thing about tab tearing is I can actually cause, if I remember how to make it crash. Oh, there we go. This should crash now. So this will crash my entire terminal because I triggered the tab tearing bug. So it's a little unfortunate, but it I just make do. Did it kill the processes? No. Or yes, it did. So let me start my bot again. Chat bot, make sure that's working. Uptime. Yeah, it's working. Cool. Streaming for 1 hour and 47 minutes. But anyway, yeah, I run a fork in my terminal, and the whole process tree dying is pretty unfortunate, but whatever. I make do. And I usually don't break it too often. So the unfortunate part about this patch that I'm gonna have to make here, let's see, keyboard. The unfortunate thing that I have to make about this patch here is it's in code that's not really testable. I mean, it's technically testable, but it would be difficult to kind of orchestrate the situation where I'm in the middle of making a commit and I trigger a Control C at just the right moment, which should cause it to roll back. And the hard part about that is I need to basically invoke git, allow the hook script to start, pause after it is checked out the diff, then Control C there, then wait for that to die, and then verify the state afterwards. And like that setup is kind of complicated to deal with. Also, the actual hook script that gets run itself is templated and not actually a Python module. Like the thing that gets written into the hooks directory is this script here. Let's use less. Which basically like does some Python-y stuff, has some templated out variables that tell pre-commit how to run this, or help tell this script how to run itself. Does some stuff to normalize Windows shebangs and such. Yeah, and then eventually down here runs pre-commit. Somewhere way down here. But this is where the problem is right now, is in this subprocess.call call. But yeah, this file isn't super testable, unfortunately. So most of the tests that I've done for it currently are integration tests, where it makes a Git repo, installs pre-commit, runs git commit or git push or any of the git commands that should trigger a hook, and then asserts their output and the side effects there. Unfortunately, trying to do that same kind of test here might be kind of impossible, because no, I need to trigger a keyboard interrupt in the middle. So what I'm going to do instead is try and reproduce it manually, and then like write a test plan in my pull request. And I won't be able to like validate it indefinitely, but I'll at least demonstrate that I've fixed something. So I did some research on this before while I was at work, and I've dealt with the like signal handler bits before. So what's happening when you keyboard interrupt? When you Control C, import time.sleep a bunch. So when I hit Control C, so I'm typing Control C on my keyboard, but you can't see it. What happens is Python has registered a signal handler. Actually, let's see if we can find that code. Sigint. It'll be in C code, probably. That's the signal module. Where is... oh, here we go. Signal handler. Is this where this happens? Init signal. Okay, so as a side effect of setting up the signal module, it adds an int handler. Default int handler. Okay, yeah. So here's where that signal handler gets happened. So in Python, if you trigger Control C, which sends the interrupt signal, it will call this signal handler, signal default int handler, which raises a keyboard interrupt exception, and that's how Python bubbles up when you Control C. But what we need to do is actually turn off this signal handler and set our own signal handler, which will signal our child process that there's a keyboard interrupt, and then progress from there. Or at least that's what I gathered from my research and this little bit of code that I wrote here. But I'll also need to try it on Windows, because Windows has different concepts for signal handling, and so I'll need to make sure that it continues to work there. But this is the approach that I'm going to take, and then I'm basically going to rewrite this code. Well, I can copy and paste it, but I'm going to rewrite this code and do some debugging with that. Let's see. So the main thing that I need to change here is this call here. This is the one that I care about, the sigint handling. So call with keyboard interrupt handler. And so this is the code that I wrote from before. Put the import at the top. I'm gonna just leave the import out of order, and we'll let pre-commit fix it for me later, because manually sorting imports is for plebs. Oops. Plus nothing. Okay, so what this code does is we make a process, and or we start with a null process. We'll eventually set that to a popen here. In fact, I can give that a type annotation. Oh no, I can't. because I don't have optional. Anyway. I plan to do more typing for pre-commit eventually. I did already type annotate all of pre-commit hooks, but that was a little bit easier because pre-commit hooks is a very simple, like all of these are essentially executables, and most of their type annotations are just this same type annotation, which is an optional sequence of strings returns an integer, and that's basically the structure for all of these hooks is essentially the same. Now some of them are slightly more complicated, like what was the requirements? This one's kind of complicated. Like this has a bunch of different functions and like different types that go on here, and like assertions of the types, and like passing around binary files and like all sorts of stuff. But this one is probably one of the most complicated fixers of the pre-commit hooks repo. But anyway, I digress. I will type this eventually, but not today. So what I came up with is that I will change the SIGINT, the Control-C handler, to my own custom handler. And what this handler is going to do is if there's a process here, it'll raise keyboard interrupt, because that basically is the race condition between this call and this call happening. If somebody were to keyboard interrupt right here, or like in the space between these two, which is possible. There's a crazy race condition that could happen there. But in that case, it's just going to use the default behavior, which is to raise a keyboard interrupt. But otherwise, what it's going to do is it's going to send, or it's going to forward that interrupt signal to this process here, which will basically like trigger the keyboard interrupt in the child process, which is what we want to happen. And then, other than that, we're going to wait on the process to return. This will basically wait for completion of the subprocess, which in our case is the execution of pre-commit, and eventually return that process's return code. And so then with that, we'll end up coming back to here. Actually, just need to move this down. Hopefully this doesn't make the line too long. Oh, we're one character over. SIGINT handler. I'll write a doc string to make this more obvious why this is happening and link to the issue. So let's see. Make sure that we properly forward the keyboard interrupt from the Git script to the child process. This is to ensure proper cleanup in that process. For instance, restoring the temporarily stashed patch. Let's see, what issue number is that? 1026. 1026 for more details. Do you handle all SIG interruptions or just SIGINT? Is the bug existent for SIG-quit? So in my mind, it's not really a bug if you're sending SIG-quit. Like the standard behavior for Python for anything that's not SIG interrupt is to not call finally blocks. So for instance, if we do import time dot sleep infinity, not infinity, some large number. And then if I did a finally block here, which would, let's say, like, oh no, or something like that. If I were to run that and Control-C, we'll get oh no's printed because Python translates SIGINT into keyboard interrupt. But if we were to run the same thing and do Control \, which is SIG-quit, the default behavior for SIG-quit from the operating system level is to core dump and exit the process. And Python doesn't have any special handling for SIG-quit, and so in my mind, like, handling SIG-quit is not a good idea, or like maybe it's a good idea, but no one does it, so I'm just gonna follow precedent and not do that here. But if I press Control \, here, we'll get the core dump behavior, and it's not going to actually run my finally block. But that's just standard Python, and I don't see a reason to change that. It also, like, interestingly enough, if you have Python and you send it a graceful signal, or a quote-unquote graceful signal, for time.sleep, some large number, who knows? If we run this and CPS, graph Python 3, I assume it's this process. If I kill -term that process, it must not have been that process. Oh no. Oh, this is Python 2. Shit. Well, this is the process that I killed. Must be this process then. If I kill -term this process, which is supposed to be a graceful termination, finally blocks don't run, which is kind of surprising to me. But I looked into like other programming languages that also have handling of keyboard interrupt, and none of them handle sigterm. I was looking at other programming languages that have finally blocks, and none of them run finally blocks when receiving the term signal, despite it supposedly being a graceful way to shut down a process. But I don't know. So if nothing else handles it, I'm not gonna bother either. But you're right. Like, you could actually catch sigquit and handle that properly, quote unquote properly. But I'm not going to, so that's that. But yeah, this subprocess.popen and then wait essentially reproduces what the subprocess.call thing was before, and then we're just doing some signal handler stuff here. The other thing is we're not restoring the original signal handler, which I don't know if we can get the original signal handler. Python 3 signal. No, I don't want to bookmark that page. Let's see. They're just signals. iTimer error. What is an iTimer? An iTimer. Interval timer. Oh, this is for real-time signals. Okay, whatever. Signal.getSignal. Return the current signal handler. Huh. So can I use getSignal to get the Python, the keyboard interrupt one? Signal.getSignal, signal.sigint. Oh, does that work in Python too? Interesting. So I guess I'll make this better. So that way we actually restore the original signal, the original handler, instead of just setting it to the default behavior, because this will actually restore the keyboard interrupt behavior. Interesting. That's cool. So yeah, if we call this, we get keyboard interrupt. Let's see, signal.pause. I wonder if signal.signal returns that. That would be cool. The previous signal handler will be returned. Even better. I just want to verify that behavior. Signal.signal. Signal.sigint. And my own handler. Our original, yeah, is the default int handler, and if I control C, we get my custom keyboard interrupts. Cool. That's nice. I like that. Oh no, I resized my VM again. Fortunately, it didn't crash this time. Let's see. Handler. On Windows, it may only be called with abort. I don't know what FP is. I don't know what this one is. SIGINT. Okay, cool. We can still do this same, hopefully still do the same approach in Windows. I'll validate that later. Note that not all systems define the same set of signal names. An attribute error will be raised if a signal name is not defined. Interesting. Okay. Think pending. I don't care about that. Okay, I think that's fine. Or at least I think this code is right. Let's pre-commit install and try that out. See if that fixes the problem here. So pre-commit install will idempotently set up this script, and we should see our new code here. Yeah, so we see our new like call with SIGINT handler. I'm gonna add the hook template just because I don't want that to get blown away. But we still have our same like white space changes and our staged changes. I guess I can unstage this now. Git reset this, git check out that. And I can reset set bug config. Okay, so we have this stage, which is our new code, and we have this unstaged. And so if I Python version, so we're gonna first test this where we're using Python 3. I say test this, we're gonna manually test plan this, I guess. So we're gonna commit and control C after it starts, and it should go through the keyboard interrupt process that we expect from before. Okay, so it did restore the changes, so that's good. This is kind of ugly. Let's make that less ugly. So we have an error handler already, so I think I'll just set keyboard interrupt. Probably simplify this code in some way. Right, let's see. Message equals oh wait, this should be interrupted. Did you see that Windows will ship with a Linux kernel for Windows subsystem for Linux 2? Microsoft going close to Linux. Yes, I did see that. I'm actually really excited for that. Also, I saw. Oh, I did bookmark this. Like an idiot. I did see that. I'm actually pretty excited about that. Windows. Yeah. Basically, the idea that they're doing is it's kind of like a lightweight virtual machine dealio that'll boot with Windows itself, and then you'll be able to use it as a lightweight containerization for other stuff, or at least that's how I understood it. Oh, and a new terminal. That's exciting because current terminal sucks. But yeah, I'm super excited about this. But my new favorite like Microsoft meme is no, it's not called Windows. It's called GNU Windows. To make fun of those GNU Linux people. But I thought it was pretty funny that they're doubling down on Linux, and it's a really good move for Microsoft. They actually run one of the largest Linux clusters in the world, and so like they have the expertise to make this happen. I'm pretty excited for it. That said, I'm probably still gonna stick to my virtual machine solutions, but I don't know, it is nice that they're bringing Linux user spaces to Windows in a way that's functioning, which is great. But yeah, back to this. Let's see. Interrupted C, else message equals an unexpected error has occurred. And then log and exit message E and trace back dot format exception. That's the same code as this. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 7 lines versus 2, 4, 6 lines. Technically more code. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, this is 8 lines, but only 6 functional lines. I don't know. I think this is like slightly better. But it's indeed GNU Linux, since Linux is just a kernel and all Linux distros use GNU software. Yeah. I know. I just like to poke fun at it. Because like I'm never gonna call it GNU Linux out loud. I'm just gonna call it Linux because I don't know. I understand that it's correct, and if I want to be pedantic, then yes, you're right. But yeah, let me test this new interrupted case here. I don't like Microsoft and their products, but as far as I can see, Microsoft tries to break that bad impression when they got on the free software folks. They have, I think, 4 core CPython devs, so they are contributing in some way. Yeah, Microsoft has really turned around since kind of like the Ballmer era has finished its reign. But like, I don't know, even as far back as like 2009, Microsoft had started pivoting towards like open software. Like a lot of the stuff they did around like ASP.NET and Razor. This is like the first taste of Microsoft open source that I got into, which was working with .NET and Razor templates. I don't know if this is a good example, but like there was a bunch of like open talks by what is his name? Scott Hanselman, who was basically leading like the open source departments at Microsoft at the time. But Microsoft has been really turning things around, which I'm thoroughly impressed with. And like there's the whole like open sourcing Visual Studio Code and like their efforts to contribute to like Node.js and I mean in some ways even like switching Edge from Chakra to the Blink engine, which I don't know, I have mixed opinions about that. I actually think it's bad for the browser ecosystem, but like it's good for Microsoft, and they're like moving towards more standard software. That's why I'm moving to BSD. I'm sick of Richard Stallman. I think everyone's sick of Richard Stallman. He's kind of a dick. No pun intended. Like he's kind of a dick. He's also such a weird dude. I don't know that I could run BSD though. I don't know enough about BSD to probably be as productive as I could be, but I don't know, it's just me. RMS only freed people. Yeah, he also eats his toenails while going after people that use free as in their name to mean like so I'm not actually part of this organization, but I chat with them on IRC all the time, the Open Computing Facility at Berkeley. And apparently RMS came to give a talk at Berkeley and refused to acknowledge the OCF because they used the word open in their name. And he went on like a half-hour rant trying to get them to like rename their project or their group to not be called open, because technically they were using they had some like non-free hardware and like non-free software and like all this just like essentially garbage. But like I don't know. I'm not convinced with Microsoft. They play some weird mind games. I mean, I will be like the first to admit that Microsoft definitely has like corporate gains in mind about all of their software offerings. Like there is an ulterior motive, and I actually like think that I don't know. I think it's good like that they're trying to make open source profitable, and they're doing a pretty good job about it. But you're right, like I don't think they're being altruistic in any way, shape, or form. But I don't know. I'm happy to use their stuff. I run Windows and I pay for it, and like that's mostly because I play video games, and I don't know. I've grown up with it, so I'm familiar with it. But also run Linux and VMs, and that's what I use for development and stuff. So I don't know. It's a mixed bag. It's just this error handler for keyboard interrupt. Uncaught. So we have uncaught here. We should do one for keyboard interrupt as well. Basically the same test, but slightly different. Keyboard interrupt. Traceback, error handler, keyboard interrupt. Dang it. Oh, I don't want to debug a regex. No. I think it doesn't have a colon is the difference. Nope. Let's see. That's why I'm moving to BSD. Thank God there's FreeBSD and OpenBSD and all the BSDs. We tried to make a GNU/BSD. Oh no. I used to work on OpenBSD server, but man, it isn't good enough if we compare with GNU Linux. But as long as some OS license is free, it's okay with me. The hugest sites run BSD. I don't know anything about that. I've only dealt with people running Linux in web and stuff. I mean, technically, like Mac runs BSD, like some flavor of BSD, but it's like Apple bullshit. I'm not a hard free software guy. I just support what they believe as far as I can. Yeah, I feel ya. I mean, I think free software is a good thing. Oh, I forgot to change this string. Maybe that's what's different. Google runs BSD, Netflix runs BSD. Really? I thought Google ran flavor of Debian. Google operating system. What operating system Google servers run? Usually run. Sure. Yeah, see, it's Linux. I was pretty sure. I don't know that these people actually know though, so I don't know if this is like credible or not. Go away. Why would I ever want notifications, ZDNet? Go away. Die. This is no longer true. This has not been true for a while. Google, at least my friend that's at Google, they run like a Franken Debian, which is like a mix of Debian unstable and like some weird other packages. I don't think they're running their own flavor of Ubuntu anymore. They might run BSD, but not as a major ratio. I know Netflix runs BSD, so I got you. I got you there. Microsoft promoting open source is the same as Google promoting privacy. Yeah, that's pretty fair. After Canonical's stupid actions, they moved to Debian. Yeah, I don't blame them. Also, Canonical has gotten kind of like all of their big developers moved to like Twitter and stuff, and they've had a hard time like maintaining developers, which is fair. I intended to talk about Netflix running BSD. Yeah, I know Netflix runs BSD, but I guess Netflix has enough servers to say that they run a lot. Control-C. Oh, that's not the one I want to change. Oh, goodness. Why? Okay, so now the regex is not matching. So at least I can debug that. Alright, we got links. Got links. Yeah, so I know about this one. I know that one. This one must be the Google one, the other link. Oh no, we don't have to actually play you. Google. I don't see Google in this link. 1.2.2. 1.2.2. Oh. Nice. Yeah, there are a lot here. I just don't think it's a majority. I mean, maybe there's enough servers at Netflix to like dominate most of these other ones, and definitely like Apple's Mac is based on Linux, or sorry, based on BSD, which I mostly gripe about, because Apple's BSD is super old. I'm looking for the interview of the developer guy saying Google is using FreeBSD. I mean, Google must be using FreeBSD somewhere. Like, if there's any software that exists, Google is probably running it somewhere. Okay, so what's fucked up about my regex? Test, error handler test. Okay, so traceback. Most recent call last. Yeah, that looks fine. File. Error handler.py. Cool. Any line number in error handler. Yeah. Oh. This changed. Test error handler. Keyboard interrupt. Kind of annoying that the test name shows up in the in the test output, but yeah, whatever. I'm not saying that most people are using FreeBSD, I'm saying the huge ones are using it. Oh, okay, then I misread you, sorry. Yeah, I'll agree with that. That's legit. I agree. Alright, so let's try this now that I've made the Control-C output better. Interrupted, Control-C, keyboard interrupts. It's a little redundant. Check the log, and this log will contain the full stack trace, which is good. Okay. I think I'm okay with this output now, and it's working. So that's Python 3. Let me check if it's Python 2. If it works in Python 2 now. So I deactivate this. It's user in Python 2 version, or well, Python version. Okay, so now it's going to default to Python, I think. Get hooks pre-commit. Yeah, this will be Python 2 now. So if I run git commit now and also control C it in the same way, cool, we get the same output and it restores the patch. Okay, so I think that fixes it. So now I'm going to push it and then pull it on Windows and validate that it works there. If some technology exists and Google's not using it, they will buy it. Yeah. Git commit, fixed handling of keyboard of, I guess, SIGINT in hook script. Oh yeah, and this is what I was talking about before. So I didn't bother sorting my imports because I have a hook that properly sorts them for me. Which is kind of like, this is the tool that I'm working on, and the tool that I created, and that's kind of the magic of it. Is like, you don't have to think about import sorting or like code formatting or any of that stuff. It just kind of does it for you. So we push that up, and I'll let the test run in the background while I clone and validate this on Windows. I hope it works on Windows. I don't want to debug Windows as much as I want to avoid it. Make this bigger so you can see it. Font 36. That's huge. Hopefully you guys can see that though. And a little bit smaller. Yeah. So I have I have core utils on my path, so I can kind of do some Linux stuff, and so it'll be a mishmash of Windows and Linux here. NASA is also using FreeBSD. Cool. Interesting. So Rada Toxica, do you use FreeBSD? Do you like run BSD on a laptop, or do you have like a MacBook, or like how does what does your setup look like? Not yet. I'm moving to a BSD distro. Okay, so you run like Linux right now, or what's the deal? I'm thinking FreeBSD or NetBSD. I know nothing about BSD, so I can't help you there. Okay, you're running Linux right now. Okay. Hypocrite now. Arch, by the way. GNU Linux. Got him. Why not Gen 2? How close is the Python ecosystem to being full Python 3? Are most important projects ported/replaced in Python 3? The most annoying thing dealing with Python 2 and Python 3 conflicts. So, most of the popular libraries support Python 3. I think it's python3clock.org. Nope. Python 3... Oh no, it's Python 3 Wall of Shame, which is now the Wall of Superpowers. So this is deprecated apparently. So this is over a year out of date. But But a year ago, almost all of these are green. There's a few that are red towards the bottom, like iDevD, Apache Beam. This one is getting ported. I've been following this work because we use it at work and it sucks, but it's getting worked on at least. Kiwi Solver. I don't know anything about that. This sounds brand new. Doing PyCube. You really don't support Python 3? I find that hard to believe. Oh, this repository has been archived. Okay, so it's dead. Okay, so we can ignore that one. But yeah, for the most part, oh, this one is Python 3 because, or it has been ported to Python 3 because I know we use it at work. Or if it isn't Python 3, we're making it work somehow. Yeah, in fact, Dean Effin, who I used to work with, who works at Docker or worked at Docker, that's his branch here. But yeah, for the most part, like, we're ready. Let's go. In fact, like, the whole science community has abandoned Python. Oh, for the most part, has abandoned Python 2. Docker PTY isn't compatible with the new Docker Py API. That sucks. So I guess we haven't. Upgraded to the latest version yet. So we're running old stuff. There is a Python countdown clock too. Python 3 countdown clock. This one, pythonclock.org, not python3clock.org. But anyway, 7 months, then it's gone. But yeah, I think for the most part, like, if you start new projects, only use Python 3. Don't bother supporting Python 2. And the community is pretty ready to move on. There's still a lot of Python 2 that happens nowadays, because, like, I don't know, like, most of my projects still support Python 2, because I was, in the original support, I made them support Python 3 and Python 2. But I suspect at least by the end of the year, I will stop writing Python 2, and I'll stop supporting Python 2. But, yeah, I mean, I think it's making progress, which is good. Let's see. Arch's package system is greater than every other distro's package system. That's some aggressive tone there. I can maybe, I mean, I haven't actually used Arch's package system. I guess I used it kind of through, like, Pac-Man on some other stuff. But it's also kind of like Wild Wild West, like everything is floating and good luck getting a reproducible system. But I don't know. I mean, it's good. Apt is ZZZ. I like apt. It does its job, I guess. I don't know. Yum is fine. DNF is okay. I have no idea. I just know that most of the pen testing tools are still written in Python 2. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. That community is kind of far behind. Oh, Python 2 is the default on a lot of systems. Yeah, that's true. It isn't on Ubuntu anymore. Validity. Oh, you were using it in this. I see. Yeah, well, we're still using it in our tool at Lyft, although I assume we'll stop using it when we completely switch to Kubernetes for our development environment. But that's quite a ways off. Good for admins, but meh. I only write 3 these days. That's good. Thank God we're moving to 3. Yeah. Preaching to the choir there, yeah. And the new Boston says, what are you working on? So let me close some tabs so I can explain what I'm working on. So at work today, I maintain this software called Precommit, or this framework called Precommit, which is a shitty name, I realize, because it doesn't help disambiguate itself from other things with the same name. But what Precommit is it's a on the tin, it's essentially a linter runner and linter and code formatter runner that knows things about Git hooks. It also knows how to install stuff and, like, manage a bunch of different programming languages and user space, and kind of makes, like, setting up tools that lint and format code easy. It's written in Python, and it also, like, knows stuff about Python pretty well, but I don't know, it's my baby. I created it, but I found a bug in it while I was trying out some weird edge casey stuff at work today. In that a keyboard interrupt causes it to lose temporarily stashed changes, which is bad, real bad. Like, it doesn't technically lose them. Like, you can reapply this patch file, and that's why this prints it out in case there ever was a bug in this code, which there is a bug in this code. But like, one of the things that it does is while you're committing, it should only be linting the code that you're committing, so it stashes all of the temporary changes so that it can only check the stuff that you're committing. But right now and on master in Python 3, but not in Python 2 for whatever reason, a Control-C causes it to lose this stash file for who knows what reason. And so I've been working on basically applying a similar patch to this, which will cause it to forward the Control-C signal in some ways. Let's see. When most people see Pac-Man SYU for update, they're scared and don't want to touch Arch. That's pretty fair. Kind of like Python Black. In fact, part of the reason that Black is easy to set up is because it integrates directly with pre-commit. And in fact, Black uses pre-commit to lint itself. Pre-commit. But yeah, like Black actually suggests using pre-commit as a way to run Black, and this is like so you don't have to manage the installation yourself. But yeah, it can run Black. It's actually one of the most installed hooks that we see from our like referral logs and stuff on the website. So like I get stats for views on this website, and one of the biggest refers is this README here, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I have talked a lot with Lukas, who's the original creator of Black, the original creator and one of the maintainers of Black. I met him at PyCon, and we talked a lot about how pre-commit kind of helped Black get off the ground and become like a big force in the Python community, and so I'm glad I was able to contribute to that. Now, Black is a little bit more popular than pre-commit is, but a lot of our users, there's a lot of overlap and a lot of good stuff that comes out of that. So it's a great relationship. Also, he gave a talk at PyCon, and part of his talk was like, use Black so you stop bickering about stuff, but also run Black through pre-commit because it'll make your life better. And so that was a nice shout out from him. That was pretty cool. Having it on commit is pretty hype. Yeah, Black is great. I've also written a bunch of my own code formatters that do various other things. I don't actually use Black myself, except when other people have configured it for me. So like, I maintain PyTest and Talks, and they have Black set up, so we use Black there. But I use my own set of formatters. So like, I don't like double quotes, so I have a thing that makes single quotes. There's a couple other formatters in here, but those are not super important. I like AutoPep8, so I use that. You can use isort. I don't use isort because it does dynamic analysis, and I'd prefer a static analysis tool. And so I wrote one myself called Reorder Python Imports, which is Black compatible. That's another thing that people gripe about is the incompatibility of the defaults of isort with Black, because they fight over where commas should go and line lengths and all that jazz. And this import sorter is completely compatible with Black, which is nice. I also wrote a tool which manages trailing commas in the same way that Black does, in the same idea as Black does. This one has slightly simpler rules than Black, but I wrote this before Black existed, but obviously like not quite as popular, even though it does basically the same thing that Black does. And it was first. Not bitter at all. I'm actually not bitter at all. Like, I'm glad that Black is more popular. I also wrote this tool called PyUpgrade, which does some like syntax upgrading stuff. So like, this is how you would write Python 2 set literals and set comprehension, or Python 2.6 set of comprehensions, and it'll like auto upgrade the syntax for you, and so it'll kind of like move your code into the new world. It also does some stuff with like Python 2, Python 3 compatibility stuff, so like fixing escape sequences, UR, string literals, long literals, a bunch of other stuff like that. Thank you, Barada Toxica, for the follow. Every follow counts. And it also has some code for burning the bridges with Python 2. Thanks for the stream. I need to make something to eat or I will die. See you later and have lots of fun. Yeah, thanks for stopping by. Happy to chat anytime. But PyUpgrade also has some stuff for removing Python 2 compatibility. So like when you're done with Python 2, it'll fix up all these things for you, like move to new super, get rid of inheritance from object. It'll automatically remove 6 compatibility code, which is pretty cool. And the like kicker and the one that people are super excited about is it'll automatically port format calls to f strings, so you can get your nice compact f strings for free. But yeah, so that's one of the other code formatters that I wrote, and also wrote a couple other linters and formatters. Thank you, the new Boston, for the follow. Every follow counts. So I wrote a formatter called YesQA, which removes extraneous no QA comments that. So this is how you disable lints in Flake 8, and YesQA will notice like, oh hey, that disable line isn't doing anything anymore, and so it'll auto remove it. I also wrote a thing to kind of shim isort so it works better in isolation. So this is a thing called seed isort config. Basically what it'll do is it'll use the same core code as reorder Python imports to statically figure out which imports are in the third-party section, because isort doesn't figure that out very well currently. And so what seed isort config will do is figure that out and basically write that into the isort configuration automatically, and so you can use isort in isolation. So like this is the suggested setup for isort with precommit. I also wrote, so this is strongly related to Black. In PyTest we had a ton of code samples in our docs, and what we wanted to do is, when we moved to Black, we're like, oh, but the docs are still the ugly code, and it would be great if they were formatted. And so I was like, I bet I could make that happen. Let's do a weekend hack and see what I can do. I actually did this on stream. Hold on, when did I create this? I guess I can look at the first release. That was probably right around when I created it. June of last year, I did this on stream. But this is a tool which will parse out either Markdown or RST and look for code blocks and then format them using Black semantics. The way it works is these terrible regexes, which actually aren't that bad. I thought they were going to be way worse. But they're basically regexes to pull Python code blocks out and then format them. And it just feeds them through Black and basically makes your code look not like shit in your docs. And so PyTest uses that for their docs. So like pytest.org. See if we can find a code sample that's been formatted. This one was probably the same before and after. I don't know. Anyway, you'll just have to take my word for it. We reformatted the docs, and it was super useful there. I also wrote this tool, which is a dead code detector. It's not really a code formatter; it's more of a linter. It kind of works with precommit. You need to tune it a lot to like mark your magic code as not dead. I wrote this on an airplane with no internet, and I was like, oh, I wonder if I can make a simple dead code detection. And the way it kind of works is it finds all of the references and all of the assignments and all of the references, and then like diffs those and produces some outputs. I never really finished the project, but it kind of works pretty well. But most of the reason that I wanted to, or most of the reason for the naming of the project is so I can make this terrible pun in the README. Like, is this project dead? Maybe. It's like one of the things that really grinds my gears about open source is when people will like make an issue on a project that's like, oh, is this project dead? I haven't seen a commit in 2 weeks, and it's like, those people just like really piss me off. But anyway, this is a pun on that because Python is dynamic as hell. I really like AST hacks, bytecode hacks, etc. See Python. I mean, yeah, so is PyPy. But I guess like Jython or IronPython or any of the other static implementations are a little bit different. But yeah, I really like playing with the AST and the tokenization and rearranging that stuff. That's pretty cool. But yeah, if you're interested in like bytecode hacks, a couple streams ago, I was fixing a bytecode hack in Werkzeug, which is this YouTube video here. If you want to check that out, this one might be right up your alley. I basically found a bug in the manual bytecode compiler for this like path generation stuff in Werkzeug, and then fixed it by changing their bytecode hacks. I eventually rewrote it off stream, but to use the AST instead. But this one's a pretty good video if you want to check it out. That's youtube.com/AnthonyWritesCode, so it's the same as my Twitch handle. But yeah, bytecode can be fun. Anyway, I've written a bunch of other Pigment hooks as well. Thanks for stopping by, David. Have a good one. This is my first hack with the AST. Let's check this out. The repository has been archived. RIP. Let's see. See what if some rejected PEPs were accepted. Interesting. Okay, so it kind of like reparses this code using a different PEP. Make none callable? What? None should be a callable object that when called with any arguments has no side effects and returns none. Oh. That would be crazy town. But I assume like your code enables that. That's pretty tricky. I like it. The biggest problem with open source is not to write it, is to maintain it. Yeah, I agree with that. I get like drive-by issues all the time where it's like, I don't know that I'll be able to do this. But I don't know. I try and be accommodating as possible. Some of them are really hard. Like we have a hilarious backlog of issues on PyTest. And unfortunately, like I've probably triaged like 200 of these issues, and most of them are legitimate things. Like they're still like actual bugs or actual problems. Finalizers don't run on sick term. I mean, like, this is pretty... We were just talking about this, which was pretty funny. This is standard behavior in Python, and... want something that can make this work for you, you could rewrite the signal to say int using a wrapper, and then you trigger the normal cleanup path for interrupt in Python. One way you could do this, so there's a tool which is a minimal init system that I contributed to at Yelp when I used to work there, called Dumbinit, and it's useful for running it's useful in containers for running an init system so that you have proper signal handling, because PID1 has special semantics. I won't go into complete details, but you can read about this if you want. There's the link in the chat. But one thing that Dumbinit has is a signal rewriter. So So you can use that to pip install done init. Let's see. And done init rewrite equals kill dash dash list. Kill dash L? Kill dash L. That's what I wanted. So sig term. Should have it memorized, right? Rewrite 15 to sig int is 2. Import time dot sleep. Big number. Kill dash term 11812. One way you could do this is to use dominate to rewrite the signal using rewrite. Here's a simple example where I turn sig term into sig int. I press enter a few times, and then in another terminal tab, I did kill dash turn dominant. I should actually do that so that I'm not lying. Press enter a few times, kill dash term dominant. Anyway, I spent a lot of time triaging issues on PyTest, and a lot of these are legitimate, and we're kind of like swamped in this backlog for forever, which is a bit unfortunate, but it's just kind of the way things go. But yeah, what was I doing? Oh, I think I was trying to reproduce this on Windows. So kind of set up the same situation as before, where I have like unstaged changes. These are the unstaged changes, and then we have staged changes. And if I run pre-commit install, pre-commit install, which installs the git hook. Nice terminal. Well, this is command prompt. It's real shitty. Command.exe, yeah, super great. I also use, so usually when I'll debug stuff, I'll use git bash, which is msys, which is basically a pseudo POSIX user space on top of Windows, which has like Windows APIs backing it. So I'll use this and usually do that. But I want to use command.exe here to reproduce the like actual behavior that you would get with Control-C. Python, actually, is it Control-C in Python? Yeah, it is. Okay. Or on Windows? It is. Good. There's also Control-Z or Control-Z. I don't remember what it does, but it has special meaning on Windows if I remember right. Anyway, if we can git commit and then Control-C. It clearly does not work. Oh, that's not good. That's real not good. PyCon subprocess send signal windows. So should I be using Control-C event instead? Maybe? Holy shit, this is complicated. Windows doesn't implement signals at the system level. Yeah, that's true. Microsoft C runtime implements these signals. These are just for the current process. Cool. Take term is useless. Great. I wonder if I need any of this signaling stuff on Windows. Maybe it just works? Let's see if I... So basically if sys.platform equals 132, abandon all OP who enter here. Yeah, I might try this Control-C event stuff. I want to see if it's actually a problem first. If it's not actually a problem, then great, I don't have to worry about it. I'm really unfamiliar with these Windows things, and I hate to see them. Why doesn't shitty Microsoft just be compatible with POSIX? And they're getting better at it. The problem is, I bet this process is still running in the background. Let's see. I don't even know how I would search for it. Sed launcher. I don't wanna know what that is. Sed service. What the fuck are you? Oh, Windows remediation service. Okay. This is just like GNU said. To do file description. Wow. That's shitty. I don't see it. Do I have a PS? Okay, maybe it's not running. Oh, well it did restore it, so that's cool. Or maybe it didn't stash it. Did I Control C too quickly? Let's see what happened here. Warning, unstaged. Okay, so it did stash. I like the mixes of slashes here, which is pretty great. Backslash, forward slash, backslash. It works, but whatever. 80% of Windows services sound like viruses. Yeah, they definitely do. So if I pre-commit install again, so we don't have the subprocess workaround right now. Oh, please, please, please work without needing it. that would make my day. So we get commit, and then we Control C. This is way worse. Why is this way worse? It's so much worse. What the fuck is this? Oh, I see. Okay, so it's stashed. I terminated the process, and then this is the traceback from the thing that I terminated. Weird. Oh, it tried to print some output while the process was tearing down, so that's also great. Oh, fucking Windows. A better idea, just get rid of the Windows support, but it works pretty well. And this is the code from the parent process. Okay, so it looks like it did what I wanted. Did it restore the patch? It restored the patch. So I guess it works on Windows. Which is annoying, which means I have special code that's just for POSIX. Hey, what's up, Ryan Roberts, Cubs lover? How's your day going? Haven't dropped out of school yet? This is annoying. This is annoying. Oh, I always forget how to identify the platform. So I wrote myself a wiki page for properly identifying platforms. So let's see what we've got here. Wiki platforms. My first CS course I got an A, but to be honest, half the time, think of it, that's not a complete sentence. I'm just waiting till CS makes me want to hate myself. Well, I mean, which will be junior and senior year. It's fair. I mean, I don't think it really makes me hate myself, but teach their own. Let's see, Windows. os.name equals nt. I have Sigwin also. I guess I'd probably want sys.platform equals 132. I should probably try this on Sigwin too. Ugh. Ugh. I just hope to get it done first, try not look back. Fair. I guess I could just check if it's POSIX, and otherwise, I'll check if it's 132. This stop platform equals 132. Did you never feel stress in CS at college? Not really. I had a lot of fun with CS. There was probably one course where it was just like, where the exams were stressful, but other than that, like, nah. I thought CS was easy. Oh, this is gonna ruin all of my nice indentation. Dang it. Actually, is this file coding UTF-8? No, we won't. We won't put the shrug emoji in here. We'll be nice to people. Shrug. Let's put a question mark. Process call. I gotta re-indent this shenanigans. Oh boy. Have a nice evening, Anthony. Hope the bay is treating you well. Yeah, thanks for stopping by, Ryan. Have a good one. Also, my academic advisor told me to visit a therapist. She told me to just get a C, and you have a degree. I was like, if you have that mentality, then did you... hit me up when you and Shotty are going to another concert. Yeah, I'll hit you up. Did you ever fear failing? Oh, I fear failing all the time. That's probably my biggest fear. Which sucks, because it holds me back from doing all sorts of things that, I don't know. I feel like I would be better if I didn't fear failing as much. At least Microsoft showed the new colorful terminal. In future, your paint will be more beautiful. Oh, that's something, I guess. Seems to work. Okay, I should also try Sigwin to see how that happens here. So process call. Also, nice shirt I picked up this year too. Yeah, I I did a lot more than 5 contributions in Hacktober, but I did enough to get the shirt. Oh yeah, if you guys can't see, it's the 2018 Hacktoberfest shirt, which they basically sent out if you showed, or if you proved that you could do however many contributions. I actually got the shirt twice because I asked for medium and they sent me a large, and so I have another large t-shirt. I use it as my keyboard damper, but I set this underneath my keyboard so that it doesn't pick up as much on the microphone. But so I actually have 2 copies of the shirt. Do you have a social life while being an engineer? Yeah, I do. To be honest, I should see a therapist. I should see a therapist. I'd rather get fired than fail a course in college, because at least you get paid. Yeah, and then you get severance. True life. But yeah, I always feared failing, which fine. I hope to get to your point where programming is just as simple as playing basketball. I mean, I'm garbage at basketball. I'm using decorators for platform-dependent functions, like at Python 3.5, do something that only needed to run on Python 3.5. Interesting. It's kind of cool. How do you do for like multiple dispatch sort of stuff? Like if Python 3.5 do this, if Python 3.7 do that, like how would that work? Or do you just have like a series of functions and you call like the Py 3.5 function? I guess that would work. Just have multiple functions. Registering on a simple dictionary. Okay, cool. Plus, when I'm about to get fired, I could go out with a bang. Yeah. I mean, I tried to stir up as much drama as I could when I quit Yelp. Actually worked pretty well. What is this? This is such a funny photo. Is that on Wikipedia? It's on Wikipedia. Nice. Who's this like random dude that's just like a shrug with a tiara, a drink, a dress shirt, and a loose necktie? It's oddly specific. Thanks for the host, Ryan Roberts, Cubs lover. Hosting you with 1 viewer. All 1 viewers? Nice. What tips would you give me once you understand concepts of basic building blocks of code? Honestly, the best way to learn is just like keep practicing, like build shit. Have a project in mind and then make it happen. You'll learn much better if you're building stuff for yourself as well. It's yeah, like constantly practicing code is in my mind the best way to both like get better and keep your skills sharp. Did you ever have a day when you were SpongeBob when his brain was on fire and he was shredding paper? Like a rageful day? I mean, I rage all the time. Not necessarily in a good way, but I do sometimes have rageful behavior. So we showed that this kind of works. I keep pressing tab, so if you hear that dinging, it's me trying to tab complete stuff and it just doesn't work. Because there's no tab completion for bash. Or for command.exe. Origin. Oh, I did it again. Keyboard. Interrupt fix. So let's try this one. Git commit, and if I control C this. Oh, I don't have a unstage change. Dang it. Well, we'll control C it anyway. That's very weird. What happened here? What the fuck is this? Thank you, Btaskaya, for also hosting me with one viewer. Is it just you, Btaskaya? Are you hosting me with yourself? Okay, so there's a crazy stack trace here. Alright, so we were initializing, then we Control-C here. Oh, which actually, like, stopped the process? Man, fucking Windows. Oh, it's just you. You troll. Nice. So I think what happened here is the Control-C stopped the process, and then this is a series of crashes due to other stuff. So part of it is, like, trying to write to standard out while, this was the actual crash. It was running git fetch. But then while I was trying to exit, we printed some stuff, but since the process was already torn down, it couldn't properly flush the output? I don't know. Well, clearly it could flush the output because we see output right here. I don't really know. I don't understand. I'm okay not understanding. But anyway, I think it works, so that's fine. You can just call me B. Alright, I'll just call you B then. Thanks, B. But yeah, I'm happy to call you B. I'll remember that. Okay, so it works on Windows. Let's try it on Cygwin. Cygwin, go away, Cortana. I do not need you in my life. Git version, Python 3 version, git. Oh, do I not have Python 3? I have Python 3.7. That works. Make this one bigger as well. That's the Windows one. Build writing body. We went Python 3.7. One bad thing in learning programming in current time is it's easy to choke in a pool of information and technology. Staying focused is not that easy if you don't have someone to hold your hands. Yeah, that's definitely true. Like, there's a million ways to do a million things. And, like, getting caught up in, like, switching tech all the time is an easy thing to fall into. I'm actually teaching my brother to program right now. He was a music major in college and also did like some graduate studies in music. But he realized that it's not really super employable, and so he's doing a career pivot. And I've always told him, like, hey, if you ever want to switch careers, I'll sit down with you and teach you to write programming. And it's going pretty well. But I haven't had to remind him very often, but he's pretty dead set on like just learning Python and like just progressing with that. And then once he knows Python, he can then like branch out from there and learn other stuff. So we've been mostly focusing on like making Python work well, and then going from there. But I can definitely see like where someone would get distracted by the million other pieces of tech that could possibly happen. Okay, so Cygwin, let's see what happens here. What do we do here? Pre-commit main. Put a change in here, and then some other change that we'll check out. So git diff. Okay, git diff staged. We're going to be running with the Python 3.7. Interesting. Okay, so we'll try it with Python 3.7 first, and then we'll try it with Python 2 after that. But if we git commit... I don't have time to do it. This one's easier. Git config user.name AA. I'll just configure it locally for this repo. I'm not actually making commits, I just want to try this. If I control C, oh. What happened here? Okay, so it did restore the patch. There's some weird fucking output here, but it did restore the patch properly, so that works. In Python 3, which was the sketchy one. So let's see if it works in Python 2 as well. And then 2.7 is what I want. Deprecation! Python will reach its end of life. Yeah. Shush, Pip. I need you. Okay, so this will be Python 2.7. Which is different. Same setup. Git commit if I can spell it right. Then we'll control C and make sure that it worked. Yeah, it restored the patch. The output's weird, but did what I want, so I'm happy with that. And I guess I could try macOS also. Let's see. So I purchased a Mac Mini just so I could debug stuff. And it is currently sad, I guess. I'll have to reboot it. Dang it. Maybe I can just SH to it instead. Let's try that. Or it's been owned. Okay, this works. Yeah, I have a Mac Mini in my living room that I only purchased so I can debug software, which is great. But I don't think I have Python 3 on this. I guess we'll find out in a sec. I do have Python 3. Okay, so I can debug both of them. Let's see. We'll make the same change here. Same change here. This is the unstaged change, and this is the staged change. And then we'll get commit and control C. That's weird. What happened here? Restored the changes, that's good. But what is going on in the stack trace? Okay, so this is the stack trace from the actual hook script, the outer script. Oh, this is the old code. It worked fine in, right, it worked fine in Python 2. Yeah, that makes sense. Did you see a project that uses a CI service for macOS? Interesting, but I didn't see anything. I think Linux and BSD support includes that. Yes, there are two CI providers that I know that have macOS support. So Travis CI is the the first one that I know that has macOS support, and I've used their Mac support before. It's okay, but it's kind of slow. And then the newer one is Azure Pipelines, which, in my opinion, is a much better CI provider than the other ones that are available, if you look past that it's Microsoft. Because they allow you 10 parallel builders and macOS, Linux, and Windows all in one CI. And it works great. I'm really happy with Azure Pipelines. But yeah, I just realized that testing in Python 2 is not super useful here because we already showed that Python 2 doesn't have this problem. So, go back and do Python 3 instead of Python 2. The other problem with this change is it's not really something I can test in CI, because it involves like very specific coordination of running things. Okay, so first I want to show that it's broken, and then I'll show that I fixed it. If I Control C right now, did it restore the patch? It did. And maybe it's not broken on macOS? How is it only broken on Linux? That seems weird. Oh, I don't have the tab completion installed. Annoying. I still haven't finished setting up this Mac, so that's why. That's why it doesn't have those nice things. Git commit. Control C. Cool, see the nice new output. It still does this weird thing here. I don't know how to fix, but I don't know. Seems fine, I guess. Status by Nat Friedman. What does Nat have to say? I guess we're GitHub famous. What is this from? Python was coming soon. What is this referring to? Oh, is this the new GitHub packaging stuff? Oh shit, it's us. I guess we're GitHub famous. Is this talking about the new like GitHub hosted packaging services? Yeah, cool. It'd be cool to get PyCon support for that. Yeah, this appears to work. I'm probably not going to merge this PR just yet because I still want to do some more testing, but this is all I'm going to do tonight. Put a test plan here. Stage change. Have an unstage changed. Run git commit. Control C while the commit is running. Verify that the patch gets reapplied. Ideally, there isn't output spew, but that seems unavoidable on Windows. Let's put this lower. So, very simple test plan. But anyway. Yeah, GitHub announced its own package system. Yeah, I saw that. I'm actually pretty excited for that because we're trying to set up our own internal NPM at Lyft right now, and all of the like open source NPM softwares are pretty shitty. And if we can just like say, "Hey GitHub, we'd like this," and make it happen, that would make our lives way simpler. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap up the stream here. So I'm gonna do my little spiel and then wind it down. I will be streaming again tomorrow because I stream. I gotta go to school. It is morning in Turkey. Thanks for this great stream. It was really enjoyable. I turn on notifications for your Twitter for the next streams. Yeah, thanks for stopping by, B. Hopefully I'll see you around. I will be streaming tomorrow at 1 p.m. my time, which I don't know what time that is for you, but it's 1 p.m. my time. And if you missed any part of the stream and want to catch it later, I put the streams up on YouTube after the fact. So those are at youtube.com/AnthonyWritesCode. And so that's where all of my previous streams are. And, well, not all of them, because I didn't start putting them on YouTube until recently. I also announce my streams on Twitter about an hour before I start them. So if you want to follow me there for updates on stream, that'll happen. I'm also going to set up a Discord soon, so I'll be announcing stuff in there, and you can chat with me when I'm not streaming, and I'll answer questions or whatever, and hopefully build a community out of it, you know. But yeah, that's all I've got for today. Hope you all had a good stream. It's kind of late and not too many viewers, or I would probably run a raid, but I'll let you guys fade out into the night, and hopefully you have a good one. And see you around.